The result was truly shocking. Yoo So-hyun, a genius born into the Sujin clan, one of Korea's top 5 families, with talent far beyond anyone else, had been defeated by a total nobody. This was the selection trial for Valhalla, one of Korea's top 3 hunter training academies, infamous for its insane competition rate, 500 applicants for a single spot. Every year, countless hunters crave the Valhalla title, but fewer than 150 actually managed to graduate. The rivalry was intense from the start. By age 10, Yoo So-hyun already possessed mana levels equal to a high schooler, and by 13, she could infuse her blade to boost her weapon. At 16, she challenged every member of the Yusin clan and defeated them all. But those were just the official records. Some say Yoo So-hyun can actually communicate with her clan's guardian constellation. That's exactly why the Yusin clan had such high expectations. The reason Korea has 5 major clans is because of the guardian constellations linked to each house. Normally, a hunter receives a blessing or signs a contract with a single constellation. However, the guardian constellations of the 5 clans are different. The Do clan has the Sword God, the Jang clan the Spear Saint, the Choi clan the Blade Emperor, the O clan the Fist King, and the Do clan the Archer God. Members of the 5 clans receive blessings from these constellations. They have talent and potential that puts them leagues ahead of others. There is a huge difference between receiving a blessing and establishing a direct connection. Connecting with a guardian god means signing a direct contract with them. If that's true, then Yoo So-hyun is indeed a genius. But even if she is a genius, she's just a mosquito compared to Kim Do-hyuk. I thought the match would be incredibly intense, and that Yoo So-hyun would take out her opponent in one hit. But the one who got taken out in a single blow was Yoo So-hyun, to the absolute shock of the reporters, the head instructor of Valhalla, Lee Sang-cheon, and the heir of the Yoo clan, Kim Do-hyuk. Do-hyuk looked at his fallen opponent with boredom. What is this? Why is everyone so weak? Is this really what the world looks like 300 years later? Why would you say that? It's simple. 300 years ago, at the Tower of Destruction, the martial god, Kim Han-eo, fought an incredible battle against the Tower Master and successfully defeated the boss, preventing the world's destruction. But incredible? Like hell it was. The tower shook like crazy after the boss died. Kim Han-eo clutched his stomach in pain, wondering, did the tower collapse because I killed the boss? And it seemed that was exactly the case. In his final moments, bidding farewell to the world, he suddenly thought of his students. It's a good thing he didn't bring them along, or they all would have been wiped out. Even though it wasn't how he wanted to go, he could only offer a foolish laugh before becoming a pile of mush. But death wasn't the end. Kim Han-eo was reincarnated into a 17-year-old body. 300 years after the Tower of Destruction collapsed anyway. I was perfectly content to be alive again. Having a body that was younger and weaker than when he was called the martial god wasn't a problem. He could just train again. I believed he would live a life of luxury, at least until that transparent window appeared. Of course, when it comes to love, the more you run, the more it chases. That window was stuck to him like a leech. The notification read, "The Tower of Destruction will appear in 5 years. Prepare yourself." It hit him like a brick, making Kim Do-hyuk furious. He cursed that damn Tower Master under his breath. If I had known, I should have thrown that bastard into the lava back then. Now I can't do anything about it. I'll destroy that tower once and for all, then live in luxury for the rest of my life. But to live in luxury, he still had a long way to go. The system reminded Kim Do-hyuk that he could recover his weapons and memories on the 3rd floor, 5th room to the right in Valhalla, and that was exactly why he had joined this selection trial. Day 4 of the top 10 selection trials began. This time, Kim Do-hyuk's opponent was the eldest son of the O clan, Eric. This guy wasn't good at academics, scheming, or martial arts. However, he still had a God-given talent, raw, muscular strength. Eric could do things others couldn't even without mana, and with just a little effort in training, he could become exponentially stronger. Eric's extraordinary muscular strength was completely innate. That alone was enough to call him a genius. Seeing an opponent who didn't look very strong, Eric was confident he would take down Kim Do-hyuk in a heartbeat and use it to polish his own reputation. But that could only happen in a dream. What a brainless idiot. Just because Kim Do-hyuk provoked him with a few words, he lost his cool and charged in without thinking. Kim Do-hyuk knew he wouldn't win. A pure contest of muscle in this body, because Eric's strength was no joke. However, being big doesn't guarantee a win. Martial arts complement raw strength and the ability to read an opponent. If you don't balance those two, you end up with a result like this. You could see him dodging Eric's attack by a hair's breadth, causing him to lose his balance. And immediately, he pivoted to land a finishing blow to his opponent's chest, leaving him in pain on the ground. Having won this pointless match, Kim Do-hyuk turned his back and walked away coldly. The reporters and guild members present were buzzing, constantly whispering and evaluating his skills. Among them was the clan head of the Fist King clan, Chusin. He realized Kim Do-hyuk's strike wasn't a simple attack. Even though his own son didn't care about training and only focused on boosting his raw muscle, he could easily dodge a punch from anyone his age, yet Eric couldn't dodge that strike. At first, Eric had lost his head in anger, blindly charging the opponent while using magic he rarely ever employed, hoping to end the match quickly. But Kim Do-hyuk had tilted his head slightly to the side to dodge. Because Eric was so sure his opponent would be hit, he had shifted his entire center of gravity. Chusin stroked his chin, lost in thought. So that kid moves even faster than Eric's maximum speed? The moment Eric lunged, Kim Do-hyuk already had a plan. That alone is an extraordinary talent. He looked visibly excited, scanning the crowd of other guild members before turning back to the star of the day and promising himself, I am definitely going to recruit him. You're joining our family, no matter the cost. The break is over, and the next match begins. Kim Do-hyuk's opponent is the second daughter of the Choi Jin family, Choi Arin. The moment she appeared, the guys in the stands started acting like a bunch of horny animals, cheering non-stop. Kim Do-hyuk was disgusted, calling them a bunch of lunatics. Seriously, why are a bunch of dudes who've done their military service calling a 17-year-old girl big sister? I thought it would be the usual, where the other person attacks first, but no. They both just stood there like frozen statues, waiting for someone to make a move. Fine, if that's how it's gonna be, Kim Do-hyuk decided he'd go first. With a villainous smirk, he took a light step forward. Right then, Arin saw her opening. She drew her sword and swung, but, just like in every other fight, in the blink of an eye, Kim Do-hyuk vanished without a trace, only to pop up right next to her. A giant question mark appeared over Arin's head. If she kept staring exactly where she intended to strike, she was basically just giving him a roadmap to dodge. With that, he launched a counterattack. Arin was immediately sent flying backward. She was lucky enough to catch herself with her sword, but before the kid could react, Kim Do-hyuk, like a ghost, was already standing right in front of her, ready to land another hit. Try blocking this one, kid. Caught off guard, Arin couldn't defend herself. She took the hit square on and collapsed. Looking down at her, Kim Do-hyuk felt like that last move was a bit off. But whatever, he won anyway. And just like that, the top 10 selection matches concluded. The name at the very top of the leaderboard was none other than Kim Do-hyuk, who walked off the arena looking exhausted. Rubbing his weary shoulders, he ran into a group of guild recruiters. What a massive headache. Kim Do-hyuk glared at them with daggers in his eyes and spat out 4 words. Shut the hell up. The next day, news spread like wildfire about the top-ranked kid at the entrance exam who chased off and cursed at the guilds inviting him. The internet was flooded with comments like, is Kim Do-hyuk a psycho? Or is he a villain? But the kid didn't care. He remained the center of attention and proudly entered Valhalla based on his own merit. The first order of business? Sitting through a boring speech flexing about the academy. Between the speeches from the big shots and the academy heads, a few students next to Kim Do-hyuk were genuinely terrified watching him yawn his head off. He wondered if he was standing out too much today. But hey, that's fine. Saves him the trouble of having to make friends with any of these losers. After an eternity of listening, the orientation ceremony finally ended. Students were randomly assigned to their classes in the virtual combat simulation room. The guild leader of Choi Jin, instructor Kim Lee-gun, looked over the crowd. He couldn't help but wonder, is my luck finally running out? Why did the school group them like this? This isn't random at all. In the front, there's Ju So-jun from the Zujin family. Next to him is Choi Jin from the Arin family. And in the middle, the big guy is Ersei from the Osun family. How did 3 geniuses from 5 major families end up in the same class? And even worse, why is that bastard Kim Do-hyuk here too? Despite his internal panic, he quickly regained his cool and introduced himself as the head instructor. Kim Lee-gun finished speaking and immediately hit a button on his console. Everything started shaking, and the whole group was teleported to another space. Outside, a swarm of goblins and orcs appeared. There were about 100 of them. The monsters lunged at their prey, but luckily for the students, they were protected by a magical barrier, so no physical attacks could get through from the outside. Kim Lee-gun called Kim Joo-hyuk over and asked if he could handle these monsters all by himself. This guy, he's not what he seems. I wanted to embarrass Kim Joo-hyuk and deflate his ego, since these students had only ever seen monsters in textbooks, never in real life. It's no surprise he's scared. Stop pretending you're thinking about it and just say no. I was ready to start mocking him as soon as the kid flinched. Kim Joo-hyuk thought for a long moment, then gave a mysterious smile. The instructor was getting annoyed. He bit the bullet and told Kim Joo-hyuk to just do it. But the kid wasn't stupid. Why would he do their dirty work on the very first day? He looked the instructor straight in the eye and asked, "What's the reward for this test?" Kim Lee-gun was stunned for a second, but then he agreed to a deal. "Fine. If you can handle all these monsters, I'll do whatever you want within reason." Oh, now we're starting to understand each other. It wasn't much, but it would do. Kim Joo-hyuk agreed to the terms. Not letting the instructor ramble on, the kid held out his hand, demanding the sword on the instructor's back. How was he supposed to fight all these things without a weapon? And so, in front of everyone, Kim Joo-hyuk swung the sword repeatedly, landing precise strikes on weak points and taking out the monsters one by one. As he fought, he thought back to the past. 300 years have passed since I last held a blade. Not bad. Back then the world was turned upside down by monsters, and people used whatever was at hand as a weapon. But the sword remains the most familiar. Just as I thought, these are simple monsters, just NPC monsters, cleverly manufactured fakes. While he was going wild on the battlefield, Kim Lee-gun inside was absolutely terrified, breaking out in a cold sweat. He couldn't believe it. The sword he gave Kim Joo-hyuk was just a regular blade. It had no magic, no special power, yet the kid was cutting through everything like a hot knife through butter. He was slicing through those monsters like they were made of mud. Of course, it wasn't just Kim Lee-gun who was shocked. The three scions from the prestigious families also thought it was absolutely insane that the final monster had been taken down by Kim Dokja. Slowly sheathing his sword, he turned to face the instructor and made his request. "I want to go down to the Constellation's chambers. You'll keep your word, right?" A few hours later, the first class finally ended. Kim Dokja was so exhausted from the lecture that his soul felt like it was leaving his body. It felt like nothing but torture. The original plan was just to get what he needed and get out of here as soon as possible anyway. And yet here he was sitting through, what on earth was all this? Thinking back, he'd never even considered going to school, and he'd never set foot in one before. But it wasn't entirely useless. Even though the class was boring, he did gain some specific information regarding the constellations. In Kim Dokja's previous life, things like constellations didn't exist. Speaking of which, what exactly is a constellation? It's a term for people with great futures who have transcended into gods. Most constellations are connected to hunters through their relics, and these grant them special powers. Valhalla is the third largest academy in the world, filled with constellations and relics. It seems that everything regarding swordsmanship and how to destroy monsters is useless to them. So, Kim Dokja decided to head to the dormitory to seriously practice martial arts. This body was truly too weak. His thoughts were suddenly cut off by the appearance of the second daughter of the Choi family, Choi Arin. "Teach me swordsmanship." That was what she said the moment she saw Kim Dokja turn back. But as he'd said before, he wasn't interested, so the answer was no. She just kept standing there. When she repeated the request, Kim Dokja had officially run out of patience. He glared at her with pure annoyance and snapped, "Are you deaf or something? Stop clinging to me. I have absolutely no intention of teaching you anything, so get lost." Having said that, he turned on his heel and walked away, leaving the young lady standing there completely stunned. At the same time, in the faculty office, the head instructor was trying to console Kim Lee-gun. After such a humiliating defeat, he still couldn't believe that Kim Dokja was really just a high school student, especially since he had perfectly wiped out 120 monsters in the virtual combat room without ever having seen a real monster before. Even though he had nothing special, an orphan from a small, troubled shelter with a complex background, he possessed extraordinary power. Kim Lee-gun still suspected the kid was a fraud. However, the head instructor didn't think so. After all, what kind of fraud would be insane enough to try and break into Valhalla and cause a scene at the entrance ceremony? That made sense, but Kim Lee-gun continued to whine about what would happen next year. If they didn't deal with Kim Dokja properly, it would be impossible to control the three heirs from those prestigious families. Head instructor Lee Sang-cheon offered some sympathy, but then retorted that he should still be grateful, as a student from the Great Ventric family was currently in another class. Kim Lee-gun felt slightly relieved that his situation wasn't as bad as the class next door, because rumor had it that Jody Ventric, a direct descendant of the Ventric family, had been expelled for causing trouble at a British academy. The next day, he thought he'd be able to live a peaceful student life, but it seemed like he was destined for drama. Wherever he went, he attracted attention. Just as he was sitting there thinking about his future riches, a guy slammed right into him. It was Jody Ventric of the notorious Ventric family and his follower, Uriza Felix. Because he had reincarnated, of course, Kim Dokja didn't have a clue who this guy was, and as he approached him, he had to ask who the hell he was. Jody stared at him, thinking to himself that this guy was truly uneducated and arrogant. He hadn't even heard of the Ventric family. Without further ado, Jody cut straight to the point, looking at him with ambition. Do you want to become stronger? In most families, collateral branches usually have a harder time acquiring power and money than the direct line. However, the Ventric family had a unique quirk. They had a guardian constellation. This was what set them apart from other families. Usually, a high-ranking or S-grade constellation would protect a family, and they would directly choose a member of that family to grant them power and protection. But with the Ventrics, they decided to form a contract with a family member who wasn't a constellation. This was how the chosen person could form a contract without facing opposition from the constellations. And thanks to this unique choice, the Ventric family held immense power all across Europe. If you were a member of the Ventric family, you could choose a fake contract, regardless of your lineage. That's why the branch families could also wield power. As for Jody, supported by those powers from his family, he had become overly arrogant not long ago. Due to the chaos he caused at the British Academy, he was expelled. To make up for it, he intended to recruit Kim Dokja, the center of the entrance ceremony, to his side. If you join my side, I'll take you to the family's constellation and... Before he could finish, he was cut off immediately. So what, you idiot? Do I look stupid to you? You aren't interested in me at all. All you've done since you got here is show off, and now you're spouting this nonsense. You're definitely a moron. Am I wrong, Jody? It was the first time Jody had ever been insulted like that. He was furious and wanted to charge in to fight. You uneducated bastard! However, before he could do anything, Sukana— Wait, no. A stern voice rang out from behind him. Get back in your seat. Choi Robin Ventric, insulted for the second time, turned around, seething, and snapped right in the teacher's face. Are you calling me by my full name? But the teacher wasn't one to be pushed around either. He retorted, This isn't the British Academy, this is Valhalla. I don't care how powerful your Ventric family is. Since you're studying here, you'd better listen to your advisor. That's me. After being yelled at right in his face, Robert couldn't do a thing. He had no choice but to slink away, bitter and humiliated. After class, Kim Joo-hyuk felt pretty bored. He hadn't found any extra info on the constellations today. Instead, he got dragged into dealing with some idiot who was walking around cursing, and right behind him, that annoying brat. Choi Arin was there again, popping up like a ghost, repeating the same old thing. Teach me your swordsmanship. That left Kim Joo-hyuk with a massive question mark over his head. He turned to look at her. Threatening me? Haven't you humiliated me enough already? At the Valhalla Academy dormitory, in the VIP suite, after being humiliated in front of everyone by that pathetic nobody orphan, Du went absolutely ballistic, smashing all the furniture in his room. He grabbed Juji by the hair and slammed her head hard against the floor. Juji, answer me. Do you still actually think you're some high and mighty royal daughter? Should I throw you out on the street? Get in touch with Gisera. There are a few people who need special care. Also, that guy from the upstart family in class 2, tell Loris I want to see him. Meanwhile, in Kim Joo-hyuk's room, it was pretty late, but he was still grinding away at his studies. Or rather, working out. Though halfway through, he hit a wall and was panting like a dying dog. This body is seriously... What a piece of trash. I can't even use magic anymore. Suddenly, Kim Joo-hyuk remembered the deal he'd made with Choi Arin earlier. Just to get rid of her, he'd jokingly asked for 10 million won per lesson. He figured Choi Arin would be intimidated and back off, but no, money was the one thing she wasn't short on. Choi Arin immediately asked for his bank details and transferred the cash in a heartbeat. 100 million won appeared in his account, but Kim Joo-hyuk was still trying to wiggle out of it. He flashed a bright, fake smile. "No way, I'm not teaching you." Honestly, he was genuinely shocked that a student like her could drop 100 million won just like that. Kim Joo-hyuk stroked his chin, acting thoughtful. If he taught her, he wouldn't have to reveal all his own secrets. And that was a huge pile of cash. Fine, whatever. It's just money, after all. I can earn it myself, so it's no big deal, even if my mana is pitifully low. With that said, he grabbed his shovel and packed his gear. Time for a billion-dollar heist. Let's go find that secret vault. Before enrolling in this school, he had scouted the area, but most of the records hidden 300 years ago had been destroyed. According to his research, at least 4 records remained here, and he was certain they were on the mountains of Valhalla, as he knew the location of the records could be pinpointed by the reaction of the magic stone he carried. So Kim Joo-hyuk strained every muscle to find them with the meager magic he had left. Ta-da! After all that effort, he finally found them. A beam of light appeared on the ground. Kim Joo-hyuk started digging like crazy, muttering insults at his own weak-ass body while he worked. If I knew it would take this much effort, I would have buried it somewhere shallower. And if it weren't for the Tower of Destruction 300 years ago, he wouldn't be suffering like this now. The world was on the brink of collapse back then, and there was no place to keep his stash. So Kim Joo-hyuk had created the records and buried everything. After digging until dawn, he finally touched the shell of the vault. But here's the thing. These locks were special. Ordinary keys wouldn't work on them. He squeezed out a bit of mana, wove a magic sequence, and turned it into a key. Perfect. It clicked right open. Maybe I should quit being a hunter and become a master thief. Kim Joo-hyuk jumped down immediately. Staring at the pile of gold and jewelry glittering in front of him, he was deliriously happy, even though it was all his to begin with. "Have you all been doing well, my little treasures?" That was all Kim Joo-hyuk could say. Now he didn't need to worry about money anymore. Selling this hoard might even make him richer than those noble families. To maintain the barrier he'd set up earlier, he poured in a bit of magic. It was time to use them. Kim Joo-hyuk picked up the gemstones and absorbed all the magical energy from them. Just as expected, the power rushed into his body, a tingly, exhilarating, indescribable high. Now for the logistics of this place. Kim Joo-hyuk wondered if he should leave the heavy gold bars behind and just take the lightweight, valuable jewels. Carrying all this would be a death sentence. And it really was. Kim Joo-hyuk went to class with zero focus, his limbs feeling like they were about to fall off. He lay exhausted on his desk, ignoring Choi Arin, who was looming right next to him, still repeating her mantra, "Teach me your swordsmanship." Kim Joo-hyuk couldn't understand why she was so damn persistent. According to the info he had, after his rebirth, the top 5 families, the Choi Jin family, practiced their own style of swordsmanship. So the question was, why look for him? To that, Choi Arin said she wanted to learn from him because she'd never seen anyone swing a sword like that. Kim Joo-hyuk remained skeptical. "What about your father?" "He's the head of the Choi Jin family, isn't he? He's better at swordsmanship than me, isn't he?" Just then, before Aaron could answer, the teacher opened the door and called Kim Joo-hyuk to the faculty office. As soon as he heard it was related to the Constellation Room, the kid immediately bolted out of his seat. More importantly, maybe he felt Aaron's sincerity, so he threw a few words back at her before leaving. 6 a.m. tomorrow, at the training grounds. At the faculty office, Kim Lee-gun got straight to the point. Specifically, his request to enter the Constellation Room had been approved, but on one condition. Only the basement level. I wasn't allowed to enter any level below the first floor. It sounded fine. He hesitated for a second, but Kim Joo-hyuk immediately agreed happily. He didn't forget to ask the teacher when he could head in there. After some consideration, Kim Lee-gun said if he could, he wanted to strike while the iron was hot. He expected the brat to throw a tantrum when denied access to the second floor. But surprisingly, he accepted it quite happily. That evening, just as promised, the teacher put on his handsome disguise and led the kid to the Valhalla treasure vault, the Constellation Room, which was guarded very strictly. It was so vital that it helped make Valhalla one of the 3 great academies. Kim Yoo-jin observed the surroundings and couldn't help but marvel to himself. It wasn't just the security, the outer walls were the same. They were covered in all sorts of magic except for the entrance. Suddenly, Kim Yoo-jin turned to the teacher and asked if anything would happen if he went down to the second floor. Kim Lee-gun, hearing that, felt a bit spooked and replied before it was too late. You won't become a criminal, but you'll get expelled, and besides that, your memories will be wiped before you leave the school. On the second floor, the constellation's magic is extremely violent. If you touch it, your mind will shatter and you'll become a madman. Now that all his questions were answered, Kim Yoo-jin had 30 minutes to stay inside the vault. A notification. Retrieve your weapon on the third floor, right side room. A green screen appeared at Valhalla again. Kim Yoo-jin didn't care about being expelled or anything else. He had come to Valhalla in the first place for that, and his priority was the third basement level. But after only a few steps, he suddenly bumped into something. All of a sudden, a system window popped up with a request, and just like that, it dragged Kim Yoo-jin into a strange room. Long time no see, Kim Hyung-nim. That was what he heard after being sucked in, and looming right before his eyes was that bastard Bachev, the king of the Tower of Destruction. 300 years? Is this a reunion? Bachev was about to continue when he got punched straight in the mouth. Wham! Kim Yoo-jin was fuming and screamed in his face. I'm so happy to see you again, you bastard! Bachev tried to stand up, waving his hands to tell Kim Yoo-jin to calm down and let him explain, but there was no calming down here. For every word the other guy said, Kim Yoo-jin threw a punch. Bachev kept screaming for help, while Kim Yoo-jin kept cursing. All that could be heard were shrill screams. Stop, don't hit me, save me, hold on, wait, you'll kill me, don't hit me. Oh, I'm going to hit you even more. I'm not the type to use my fists to talk, but in the case of someone who ruins my comfortable future like you, it's different, you bastard. My wealth, my reputation, all the time I spent training those brats. And you too! Bachev took a beating and could do nothing but cover his face. While Kim Yoo-jin rested to catch his breath, he tried to crawl up and squeeze in a few words. Wait, teacher, aren't you wondering where this place is? Kim Yoo-jin suddenly panicked and asked himself, where is this? Who am I? There's absolutely nothing around here. Bachev finally had a chance to scramble up. He said this was a fantasy world. More accurately, it was a relic space, and the form of Bachev that Kim Yoo-jin was seeing right now was just an embodiment of that fantasy world. His real body had disappeared 300 years ago. A giant question mark popped up. Kim Yoo-jin, slightly confused, replied, Hold on, you mean you've been in this relic all this time? Bachev knew it was time to show off. He floated up high, looking down with a proud expression. That's right, Kim Yoo-jin-nim. I have become a constellation. But just because he thought being a constellation was cool? Kim Yoo-jin turned around and started wailing on him again for that smug attitude. 30 minutes were up. It wasn't clear if he had collected anything, but Kim Yoo-jin still had to head out as per the rules. As soon as he saw him, the teacher put on a grim look and approached to question him. Did you do anything strange in there? To avoid bringing more trouble upon himself, Kim Yoo-jin gave a vague answer and quickly beat it out of there. There were many strange things he needed to look into. After beating Bachev to a pulp, he had regained his calm and was now talking in a civilized, polite manner, using his fists to force him to confess everything that had happened. Bachev was crying his eyes out, his face swollen from the punches. After teacher killed me, I stayed in this thing for 300 years without any power. I regained my memories after receiving a notification that I had to contact the reincarnator, Kim Yoo-jin. Thanks to that, a suspicious figure appeared. I wonder if this was the work of the person who turned him into the master of the Tower of Destruction. Kim Yoo-jin kept pressing him on who that person was, but it seemed Bachev didn't know either. All his memories regarding that part had vanished. After saying that, Bachev turned to ask Kim Yoo-jin about the notification he mentioned. The young man recalled that green screen. It asked him to find the weapon and memories, but the things below were unreadable because they were covered by little squares. But Kim Yoo-jin didn't remember losing any memories. He still had his memories from the tower. Bachev pointed forward to find the key to the explanation. Perhaps those are memories that haven't returned to your mind yet. Teacher has already found the weapon, so the memories will appear automatically. The more he heard his former student talk, the more absurd it sounded. What weapon? I haven't found any weapon, teacher. The teacher was still slow to understand. Bachev continued. That's right. This space is inside the world of the 4 weapons that have become sacred relics. The Soul Sword. I only became a constellation because I used that sacred relic, Kim Yoo-jin-nim. As soon as he heard that, it was like he was being poked to the point of insanity. He rushed over and gave the kid another beating to vent his frustration. By now, Kim Yoo-jin more or less understood. Bachev used to be his student but was turned into the master of the tower by some force, and to save the world, he had killed him. And now, he had also been resurrected, living the past 300 years as a soul inside the soul sword. And on top of that, his weapon, the soul sword, had become a sacred relic, and even had a constellation inside it. A truly bizarre situation. Kim Yoo-jin wanted to destroy it and ignore it entirely, but it seemed that even though it was weakened, it was still durable. Bachev was known as the king of destruction, so he figured he might as well leave him and use him for a while. He guessed only the owner of the soul sword could see the notification window. My brain was absolutely fried from a chaotic mess of information, and then my train of thought was suddenly cut off by a group of thugs. The blonde guy, trying way too hard to act like a big boss, cracked his knuckles and started looming over me. "Hey, you're the top-ranked freshman, Kim Joo-hyuk, right? Your senior is standing right in front of you. Don't you think you should show some respect? This guy is the eldest son of the Sunrise family, Lorik Sunrise, a second-year student at Valhalla Academy. You'd think he'd be scared of a senior, but that only applies to others. For Kim Joo-hyuk, not a chance." He talked back to them immediately. "A senior? You pathetic bullies like you actually have underlings?" Insulted by a mere underclassman, one of the thugs, itching for a fight, grabbed his weapon and stepped up to handle the kid. He was still blabbering about the gap between first and second years when he caught a boot straight to the gut. Kim Joo-hyuk watched them with nothing but pure contempt. "I'm not a fan of small talk. I like results. Stop yapping and attack me, you bunch of trash." And just like that, without waiting for them to make a move, Kim Joo-hyuk lunged forward to show them a real lesson. One by one, they went down, punched and kicked into a pathetic heap. A few were still standing there like statues. Kim Joo-hyuk couldn't let them walk away empty-handed. He twirled his short sword, feeling absolutely electric. "This feels great. Come on, hurry up. This is going to be fun. If you keep standing there, I'll smash your head in." 3 hours ago, Lorik Sunrise, the eldest son of the Sunrise family, had been called in by Roxane Benjik to handle a small favor, specifically to take out a first-year student. In exchange, he'd get a reward that would help the Sunrise family. He agreed to let him use weapons, and he'd be the one to clean up the mess afterward. Such a simple request for such a huge payoff. Lorik agreed in a heartbeat. He figured that even if the kid was the top-ranked freshman, so what? A first year is just a first year. He couldn't possibly be a match for a second year, because students at Valhalla don't enter the constellation chambers until the second semester of their first year to form a contract with one of the constellations. Once they sign that contract, they're called contractors. Contractors can harness the power of their constellation, and from what he'd gathered, Lorik was confident that Kim Joo-hyuk was born into a normal family with no guardian constellation. So this should be a GG, a total breeze to take him down. That was exactly what Lorik had thought before he got here. But now? He finally realized what he was up against. Lorik was terrified, but he didn't say a word. He watched Kim Joo-hyuk walking toward him, shivering. What kind of strange swordsmanship is that? It looked like he wasn't even using much force, but his opponents were getting hit with massive impact. A million questions raced through his mind, but since pride is a deadly disease, he still had to puff out his chest and pretend to be tough. The underlings were still frozen like statues in the back, debating whether or not to jump in. They couldn't afford to lose this badly. Ignoring the consequences, Lorik screamed at his underlings to attack. "What are you scared of, you morons? He's just a first year." I was talking tough, but deep down, he was scared out of his mind. Kim Joo-hyuk stood there, sword ready, waiting for the show. He looked at them jabbering away and smirked. "Oh, the leader's got some guts. Whoever stands still is getting hit first." No sooner had he said that, the guy was right in front of his face, pressing his blade into the guy's stomach. A quick shove later, and Lorik was knocked out cold. What a waste of time. All that barking just to get beat up anyway. After waiting forever and seeing the idiot still hadn't opened his eyes, Kim Joo-hyuk had to provide some physical therapy to that handsome face to wake him up. "Wake up, kid. Who are you? Why did you bring your goons to jump me?" Even after getting completely wrecked, Lorik gritted his teeth and didn't spill a single word. Not wanting to waste any more time, Kim Joo-hyuk decided to leave them be and told them to clean up the mess before he took off. Fuming, Lorik tried to shout after him to save a shred of dignity. "You think you can just go to class normally after doing this? Even if you're the top-ranked first year, if everyone finds out about this, you're getting expelled." This guy really has no brain, does he? trying to frame someone else when he's the one who started it? Kim Joo-hyuk didn't really care, but he stopped to drill some common sense into him. Whatever. You know what everyone's gonna say if you go around blabbing about today, right? A bunch of second years ganging up on a first year and getting their butts kicked by the whole group? Don't you think you'd be too embarrassed to show your face at school? Think about it real hard. If you still want to attend classes and join a guild, you'd better keep your mouth shut. Meanwhile, back at the dorms, Roxane was anxiously waiting for news that his enemy had been beaten to a pulp. Lorik happened to call right then. He thought he was about to get good news, but what he heard was the complete opposite. I'm not touching this anymore. Roxane tried to push back, desperate. I tried to convince the senior to report the assault to the academy administration so Kim Joo-hyuk would get disciplinary action. He promised to pay him extra if he did it. I even offered to pay the Sunrise family. But for these big-shot gang types, money isn't everything. They still need their reputation. So, the answer was a hard no. Roxane was livid. Seething with rage, he slammed his brand-new smartphone into the ground, shattering it. He turned to Juji, who was standing behind him with his eyes burning. You contacted Gisera, didn't you? So where's that guy now? It seems he was all too used to situations like this. She answered him calmly. I've informed him that you want to meet, but since he's far away, it might take some time for him to get here. In Mexico, at the Arabia Gisera Venchik Academy, a bully received word from Roxane about going to Korea to deal with a guy named Kim Joo-hyuk. Having already prepared his reward, Hyuk was over the moon the moment he heard the news and flashed a sinister smile. The next day, at 6 in the morning, in the Valhalla training room, Kim Joo-hyuk brought his gear to work on his physical training for the first time. Just as he was excitedly preparing to start some basic drills, he was startled by a voice calling out, "Why are you here, master?" Kim Doo-hyo was dripping with cold sweat and retorted, "What? Who? Wait, where did you come from?" Oh, it turned out to be his disciple hiding inside the sealed sword. Kim Doo-hyo was furious and scolded him. "I'm surprised you managed to escape from there. I might just beat you up and stuff you back inside again," he threatened. Bak Cheo was terrified of this master. He promised he wouldn't cause any trouble and revealed that he had left a replica of the sword there instead. Kim Doo-hyo was quite curious about this replica ability. Bak Cheo explained that since he woke up, he had lost all his strength, but in return, he gained this special ability. Although he didn't know why he had it himself, just as he was pondering it, Erin appeared. She had come to learn swordsmanship from Kim Doo-hyo, as promised. The young man said they wouldn't start lessons yet. The first priority was to improve their physical conditioning. Let's start with exercise number 1, warming up. If you can improve your physique, the amount of mana your body can absorb will increase, and controlling mana as you wish will become easier. Kim Joo-hyuk felt that the current generation's training methods were truly strange. They poured everything into mana control before improving their physical fitness or other fundamentals. Even Erin, despite her massive mana reserves, had the actual combat skills of a novice swordsman. And so, like a true coach, Kim Doo-hyo began the days of learning where the practice was the real lesson. That same morning, Kim Doo-hyo's class had a small written test supervised by Lilia, a high-ranking instructor at Valhalla, on the topic of otherworldly monsters. She had previously told the class to study and read up on the subject. So now, it was time to test their knowledge on how to handle each type of monster. Everyone quickly scribbled their answers on the paper. They finished the exam. Although it wouldn't affect their final grades, it would evaluate their ability to advance to the next class, so everyone was quite tense. Only Kim Doo-hyo seemed to have done something wrong, to the point where even Bak Cheo exclaimed in shock, "Master, are you sure you can submit answers like that?" In the first-year teacher's lounge, the lady looked through the exams and was quite satisfied. Lilia confidently told instructor Kim Lee-gun, "As expected of this class, there are students from the 5 famous families. They all did very well." But that was just a second before the disaster. The instructor hadn't even finished his sip of coffee before he spat it out. Kim Doo-hyo. "He dares to call this pile of scrap paper answers?" The old lady was furious, crumpled the paper, and turned to curse at Kim Lee-gun. "He's not just lazy, he's mocking the class. This cannot be ignored. In the next lesson, I'm going to show him this exam and educate him thoroughly." Those monsters aren't easy to deal with. And it's true. Girls really do hold a grudge. A week later, in the simulation combat room, Lilia called Kim Doo-hyo in for an immediate interrogation. She slapped the zero-score paper right in front of the young man. Then she asked, "Did you really take this test seriously?" Kim Do-hyo didn't understand what was going on and internally cursed, "Is this lady crazy or what?" He replied firmly, "I definitely took the test seriously." The old lady was livid but maintained her composure. First question, what is the best way to handle a stone golem? How did you answer that? Kim Do-hyo kept his blank, emotionless expression and replied, "Stab it in the belly." The second problem is, when you see 8 goblins in the forest charging at you, write down what you would do. Kim Do-hyo didn't hesitate to pick up the test paper and read it off clearly. Starting from the first one charging at me, I stab them one by one and send them all to hell. The teacher was annoyed, but she couldn't do a thing about it. After arguing back and forth for a while, too angry to speak further, she decided to give Kim Do-hyo a chance to prove what he had said himself. "If you can take down this monster just like you wrote in the exam, I'll regrade it." She thought that would scare her student into begging for mercy, but no. Kim Do-hyo walked straight to the weapon rack, grabbed a random sword, and approached the stone golem. The monster raised its arm to attack, but then there was only a growling sound. In pain, the sword had been driven right into its belly, and within seconds, the stone golem completely vanished. Kim Do-hyo turned back to look at the stunned crowd with a, well, obviously expression. "See? Just stab it in the belly, that's all." The students below were frozen for several seconds, wondering, no magic? He took down a stone golem with a regular sword? Witnessing this scene, the teacher no longer dared to act arrogant and asked softly, "How did the kid do that?" Kim Do-hyo looked at the lady with a questioning gaze. "Didn't you see what I did? Just stab it once in the belly, that's all." Hearing that answer was like being told she was blind. Lilia was no longer humiliated. She felt it was absurd. She bit her nails, thinking of a dozen facts. If you want to defeat a stone golem with a knife or sword, you need at least A-grade equipment. So normally, it would make sense to defeat a stone golem with one strike using that kind of weapon. But he handled it with a regular sword? Just like that? It wasn't over yet. The teacher still wanted to verify the second question. Kim Do-hyo was immediately transported to a different scene. Before he could even assess the situation, a group of green goblins, or simply put, a group of goblins, appeared right in front of him. This bunch is quite difficult to handle simply. If you don't do it right, the ones in front will use a war roar skill, and the other goblins will all rush in at once. Normally, mages with powerful skills would kill them all in one go, or they would need to run far away instead of facing them head-on, but that's for other people. As for Kim Do-hyuk, he couldn't care less how many there were or what fighting style they used. He just gripped his sword and charged at the first one. A painful, clean thrust straight through the top of the head. As the second beast roared, he slashed its throat, taking them down one by one. Kim Do-hyuk turned to the teacher and replied with a look of pure confidence. "I got the second question right too, didn't I?" At that point, the teacher was straight up terrified, unable to utter a single word. The next day, as usual, Kim Do-hyuk dragged Erin to the training room to build up her stamina. She tried her best, but she just couldn't keep up. Lying flat on the ground, panting for air, Kim Do-hyuk asked her out of curiosity, "Don't you usually train too? Why are you gasping like a dying dog now? How are you supposed to fight monsters like this?" Erin, exhausted as hell, tried to explain that she could use magic by borrowing power from her guardian constellations. It was just as Kim Do-hyuk had predicted. Instead of physical training, they were relying on magical power. Ever since they started depending on the constellations, they felt they wouldn't need physical strength. It might be fine if they could always borrow enough power, but the risk is too high. What happens if they get stuck in a labyrinth or a dungeon where magic is forbidden? Or what if they run out of mana during a long battle? And what if the guardian constellations refuse to lend them power? Too many issues. Kim Do-hyuk then let Erin rest while he went for another round. Once the beauty had left, the sidekick finally dared to cut in. He asked his master why he bothered helping her train. It turned out she was just blabbering so much that his head started throbbing, so Kim Do-hyuk only agreed to shut her up. While they were chatting, he glanced over to the side. The muscle-crazed training maniac, Se-yoon, was also there, and it looked like he'd gotten quite a bit of work in. Watching Se-yoon's back as he left, Kim Do-hyuk silently mused. He seems smarter than the crowd who only know how to train their magic. Having said that, he started wondering what the heck those constellations were actually up to, being so secretive and all. The sidekick could only answer that he didn't know because he really didn't know. Not wanting to get punched, the sidekick added that if he completed the new system quest, he might learn more about the constellations. Now that he mentioned it, Kim Do-hyuk hurriedly opened that damn window to check. There was a bit more information. It said he needed to go to the Great Forest of Valhalla, the home of Megairona, to complete the quest. It sounded familiar, yet he was seeing it for the first time. The Great Forest was the final destination they were supposed to reach in the first semester. If it weren't for this damn quest, Kim Do-hyuk would have headed there right after recovering his stamina. But it seemed he would have to hold out until then, no matter how stupid one might be. He realized that until he finished the quest, he couldn't afford to be expelled from the academy. His secret needed to be kept. Meanwhile, in the Kingdom of England, London, the Ventric family mansion. The deputy head of the Ventric household, Adelia, sat regally in her chair, listening to her subordinate report on the matter of Desera being summoned to South Korea by Roxine. Hearing those names made her feel a splitting headache. Desera Ventric, the troublesome child of the clan and the worst kind of thug. He had borrowed the Ventric family name to cause numerous scandals. At 19, he killed 5 people from the British Academy just because of an argument, so by the time he was 20, his name was completely erased from the Ventric family registry. He had lived in hiding for years and was now seeking out Roxine. Knowing trouble was coming, Adelia immediately ordered her people to keep an eye on him before it was too late. Not stopping there, she didn't forget to send a message to Josephine. If I find out he is doing anything shady, he will be kicked out of the family. To Adelia, she didn't like those who were dead weight. All of them possessed the family's power without having to earn it. That kind of power wasn't for trash. It was all meant for her alone. The next day, even during class, Kim Do-hyuk's mind was wandering elsewhere. While he was lost in random thoughts, the girl sitting in front of him suddenly signaled him and handed him a note. As soon as he read it, his face changed color, and his attitude shifted in a split second. Since students were allowed to go out this week, as soon as the class ended, Kim Do-hyuk hurriedly wrote a leave request. Ju Sojin had been following him around, stuttering and unable to get a word out, which was really getting on his nerves, especially since he had politely replied to her note, but she hadn't responded. I was already pretty annoyed. She kept standing there talking nonsense that didn't make any sense. Ju Sojin just wanted to ask Kim Do-hyuk how he managed to pierce the stone troll so easily, but the words had barely reached her lips before she felt embarrassed, feeling like she was hurting her own pride. But before she could finish, the teacher appeared like a ghost and cut her off. Tell me, how did you kill that stone troll? The teacher naturally appeared and stole the spotlight from the girl. What a pain. And that wasn't all. The teacher even tempted Kim Do-hyuk to become her assistant, promising him many special privileges, especially the chance to research various ways to take down different kinds of monsters. Watching the two of them leave, Ju Sojin could have cried. Forget it, she wouldn't ask anymore. The next day, just as he had looked into, Kim Do-hyuk carried his pile of wealth to a night market to liquidate it. The reason he sold them at the night market was that he didn't want to reveal his identity, and there would be other items sold similarly. This illegal market existed to this day because its creator was a guardian constellation, a protector known as the Hidden Ruler. Because it was created and actively maintained by a constellation, high-level players used it frequently and openly. Even though it was illegal, the government didn't show any signs of cracking down. This was also the reason that made it easy for him to find a way to infiltrate it. Just like the instructions online, Kim Do-hyuk arrived shortly after. Looking at the surrounding scenery, he felt something strange yet familiar. The purple sky and the cloudy moonlight, it was completely much like the night sky he remembered from 300 years ago. Ignoring the clear clouds and wind, Kim Do-hyuk cluelessly stumbled upon the staff member he'd read about in that post. After pulling out 2 million won to pay the entrance fee, he was immediately treated like a VIP, and the guy handed him a mask. Following the rumors about the most reliable trader, it didn't take long for Kim Do-hyuk to find Morris, the man known for offering the best prices. Kim Do-hyuk pulled out a bag full of valuable rings. Morris looked dismissive at first, clearly thinking they were cheap junk. But the moment he picked one up to inspect it, he jumped out of his skin. He stared at them from every angle. These were relics from the era of destruction. The others were the same too. They were all from the same time period. Where on earth did this kid get so many? Morris couldn't help but ask, "Where did you get these?" The market rules strictly prohibited prying into personal matters, so of course Kim Joo-hyuk didn't answer. He hurried the old man, asking how much he could pay for them. Morris stroked his chin lost in thought for a moment, then admitted he couldn't put a price on them because they were from the era of destruction, and he simply didn't have enough capital to buy them. Kim Joo-hyuk was surprised and tried to ask where he could sell the lot, so Morris pointed toward that tall tower where the auctions were held. However, it usually took 2 to 3 weeks to get a slot because there was such a long waiting list, and he'd have to come back again to verify and collect the payment. That was way too much of a hassle. Even if it meant more money, Kim Joo-hyuk wasn't feeling it, so he asked the old man if he could just appraise them for him instead. Morris typed a figure into his calculator. There were so many zeros the young man couldn't even count them. Even though he knew they were valuable from his past life and held on to them for that reason, Kim Joo-hyuk hadn't expected them to be worth this much. Morris said that, by his estimate, even if he sold his entire fortune, it would only cover about 3/4 of the total value of this collection. Not wanting to deal with the trouble, Kim Joo-hyuk agreed to sell them for that price, leaving Morris in complete shock. Relics from the era of destruction traded for high prices not just because of their age, but because of one major factor behind them, the constellations. Constellations had started appearing after that era came to an end. They reacted strangely to artifacts from that time. Word was that an ordinary person could even form a contract with a constellation thanks to these relics. Morris meticulously examined the rings. As the faint traces of mana moved through the magical details still clinging to the items, he felt truly lucky to be able to snag such a bargain for that little money. Just then, someone else appeared, catching Morris off guard. Since he'd registered anonymously for the auction, the owner of the bracket market had come to greet him in person. Looking over the items in Morris's hand, Brackett couldn't help but gasp in amazement. "It seems my guardian constellation really wants this ring." After the transaction, Kim Joo-hyuk left quickly. Looking at the balance in his account, he felt like he was on top of the world. No more financial worries from now on. If he ran low, he'd just pull more from his stash of artifacts. He had tons of them left anyway. Just then, his phone rang. He picked up and couldn't even get a word in. It was Professor Lilia, inviting him to lunch. He was starving, and since it was a free meal, why say no? People say there's no such thing as a free lunch, and the professor kept rambling about him becoming a teaching assistant, dangling benefits like scholarships and extra stipends. Plus, he could write his thesis with her. Then he'd get recognized by the prestigious Monster Research Association, the money would roll in, blah blah blah. She especially emphasized that he'd be allowed out twice a week instead of just once a month. His head was spinning from all the talk. None of it sounded appealing to Kim Joo-hyuk. What he actually needed right now was to get to the Great Forest, and the only way to get there was through the exam. The freshman final evaluation. Even if she was a professor, she couldn't help him with that. Kim Joo-hyuk flatly refused her offer. He wouldn't be a teaching assistant, nor would he write a thesis with her, so she should stop dreaming. But not giving up, Lilia offered to share information if he'd just tell her a bit about how to attack certain monsters. Kim Joo-hyuk was mildly curious and asked what kind of information she meant. But he'd expected something useful, and it turned out to be stuff about Choi Arin, which didn't interest him in the slightest. Finished with his meal, Kim Joo-hyuk stood up and walked out. Before he left, he was a bit curious and asked the professor why she pushed her students so hard. They were just kids, yet she was so harsh with them. Like she'd been hit right in the gut, Lilia started a long-winded explanation, but in short, she believed that as a professor of occult monsters, it would be a failure if she didn't give it her all. Usually, monster attacks affected the students' survival rate directly. If they couldn't even remember basic attack patterns, they'd die, which is why she had to be strict. Kim Joo-hyuk listened and coldly remarked, "That's just your own desire," before saying goodbye and heading off. At Sihyung, the private estate of the Choi family, the guildmaster and head of the household, Choi Jin-seok, called his eldest son, Choi Jin-jian, and his second daughter, Choi Arin, to ask them about their plans before the classification exam. If they passed, they would have the chance to sign a contract through the holy artifact Cheon Wando. That was the ritual to become the heir to the family. However, if they failed, they would be struck from the family registry. As he spoke, he drew his sword and looked at them with a stern expression. "So, will you participate?" Both were a little terrified, but since their father had said so, they both agreed. The classification exam would be held in 3 weeks, so they had a fair amount of time to prepare. On the way back, Choi Jinjian seemed to despise Aaron. He hurled insults and looked down on her, challenging her when she said she would participate in the exam. Didn't you see Father's expression? Looks like you really want to be the head of the house, huh, you outsider? Look at your face, I'm so scared. Don't delude yourself into thinking you'll pass the exam. You can't even receive a blessing from a constellation. How do you think you can beat me, the one who signed the contract? Have you given up on that idea already? Then by all means, keep bleeding your family's fortune dry. I'll make sure you pay it all back eventually, my dear. A few days passed as time slipped by, and the midterm exams were drawing near. Up at the front, the homeroom teacher was rambling on and on about the regulations and the penalties for failing the exam, but Kim Joo-hyuk wasn't listening to a single word. He was lost in deep thought about far-off things. All the exams at Valhalla were crucial for both the midterm and final grades. If you get a low score, you get expelled immediately, so Kim Joo-hyuk was a bit worried. The practical test was a breeze, but the written exam was, well, let's just say it was a bit tricky. I needed to stay enrolled in this academy until the end of the term to reach the Great Forest, but he still hadn't figured out how to pull that off. Suddenly, an idea struck him. He spoke to Bak Cheol subconsciously. You've been attending almost all the classes, right? So you take the written exam for me. Bak Cheol refused immediately after hearing that. You could tell how absurd he thought the request was, but refusing didn't change anything. After a few threats from Kim Joo-hyuk, the guy had no choice but to agree wholeheartedly once class was over. Aaron had her things packed early and approached him, shyly asking Kim Joo-hyuk about training. It just so happened that he needed to practice with his weapon a bit too. So, he decided to teach her a thing or two about swordsmanship. Calling it swordsmanship practice might be a stretch. It was just teaching her how to hold a sword, the most basic move a swordsman needs to know. According to Aaron, it had been ages since she trained her stamina with Kim Joo-hyuk, and she hadn't touched her sword since, whereas she usually practiced all the time. Kim Joo-hyuk told her to draw her sword, but it seemed off, so he started correcting her bit by bit, telling her to put the force into her ring and little fingers and grip the hilt tightly. Aaron felt a sudden difference. She didn't need to channel any mana into the sword, yet it felt firmer and more stable than holding it with both hands. Now go ahead. Show me everything you've got with that sword. Kim Joo-hyuk waited to see the girl show off her strength. Aaron's movement speed had increased significantly, all thanks to those grueling days of training. Kim Joo-hyuk kept pointing out her attack movements, how to distribute her strength, and so on. As expected, Aaron was much stronger now. She secretly thanked Kim Joo-hyuk for helping her all this time. An hour later, they both seemed exhausted, and Kim Joo-hyuk told her to call it a day. That's enough for today. Aaron slumped onto the ground, tired. She looked at Kim Joo-hyuk standing there, and a crazy thought crossed her mind. She asked him if they could train together next time. Kim Joo-hyuk pondered for a moment. Sparring with Choi Aaron would definitely be a great learning experience, and teaching someone with her talent was actually fun. He had felt it since the entrance ceremony. She had a unique way of using the sword. Even though she used breath-based techniques, it felt completely different. Thanks to this special talent of hers, he could rediscover his own sense of swordsmanship. If it were 300 years ago, she would have been a prized pupil worthy of being his disciple, but sadly not now. I wasn't free to do things like that anymore. He felt that teasing her was quite fun, so Kim Joo-hyuk said he didn't want to spar anymore. He thought she would whine and beg again. But to his surprise, she just said she understood. It caught him off guard. Aaron replied that because he was always right, she would follow his word, no matter what it was. 2 weeks later, at the Valhalla Stadium, all the first-year students had gathered. Everyone knew the reason, except for one person. Kim Joo-hyuk wondered why he had to be there. Bak Cheol sighed gloomily, complaining that the homeroom teacher had already talked about this 2 weeks ago. If he could, he would have punched that old teacher a few times. Not keeping everyone waiting long, the head instructor and the teachers stepped out to explain the rules for this Valhalla midterm exam. The practical assessment would be a dungeon raid. You will form teams and enter an artificial dungeon. You can join whichever team you want. I think 8 people per team is ideal, but you can decide yourselves to add or reduce the number of members. The school will only grade you based on your contribution level. During the dungeon raid, and the cutoff point is 5 hours. If you cannot pass the exam within the allotted time, you will be disqualified. The dungeon difficulty is F+. Now start the exam. As soon as the announcement ended, the students started scrambling and panicking to form teams. The kids from the 5 major families probably already figured out the crux of the exam. The rest of the students formed groups of 20 or groups of 8. If it wasn't balanced well, there would definitely be fights. As soon as a student entered the dungeon, the grading started. However, there were exceptions. Everyone else chose to join a party, but only Kim Joo-hyuk decided to go in alone. At this point, the game was easy for him, but he wasn't the only one. Kim Joo-hyuk was quite surprised to see Aaron still standing there instead of heading in. Oh, it turned out she said she would follow his lead from now on. Since he was going in alone, she would do the exact same thing. Others saw her and tried to invite her to join them, but Aaron coldly refused. "Sorry, I'm going in alone, I can do it." That was what she told them before stepping inside. At the Valhalla control room, the proctors were monitoring and grading them strictly. The scores seemed low because the combat instructor, Lee Sang-chun, was the head grader. In his youth, he was known as the Dungeon Master, a legend with a 99% dungeon clear rate. That's why he understood the core of dungeon rating better than anyone else. That's why Lee Sang-chun gave out such scores. Observing everything, the old man seemed quite satisfied. There were quite a few talented individuals this year, especially Jun So-jun, who showed excellent combat ability, applying textbook-perfect techniques. Looking over the group, the old man seems quite pleased. There's a fair amount of talent this year, especially Jun So-jun. He has incredible combat ability, applying textbook martial arts perfectly. Hai knew exactly how to handle the situation, skillfully directing his teammates into position and commanding their movements to rack up points. And above all, this kid formed a party. A party with teammates in the middle of battle, ensuring they would clear the dungeon. Anyway, Jun So-jun is pretty good. It's just that Sukana Cho was unlucky enough to run into Kim Joo-hyuk this year, so the score got dragged down. When Kim Joo-hyuk was mentioned, the teacher immediately clicked search. But what the hell? Strangely enough, no name popped up. Lee Sang-chun wondered if the machine was broken. Shouldn't it be able to find all the information on students who entered the dungeon? Thinking about it didn't feel right, so the teacher opened the list of students who had completed the dungeon to check. Oh, so there it was. No mistake. Kim Joo-hyuk's name was right there. The teacher was shocked, completely unable to believe he played solo, and the completion time was only 23 minutes and 32 seconds. Honestly, this had never happened at Valhalla. The teacher didn't believe it, but still had to review the footage to verify. 1, 2, a whole pack. Kim Joo-hyuk cut them down without missing a single beat. From the goblins to the orcs, he slashed and diced through them. Just a few minutes later, he was already standing right in front of the boss, a specially created golem for the midterm exam. But Kim Joo-hyuk dealt with it in one clean strike. His stats were as if 8 people were combined into one. Watching this scene, Lee Sang-chun gave a helpless smile. It seemed the top spot for this exam belonged to Kim Joo-hyuk. The test ended quickly. While some were happy, others looked at the results board with nothing but silence. The homeroom teacher was struck dumb, unable to speak a word, so the head coach stepped in to explain. "I guessed he would be at the top, but I didn't think he could clear the dungeon all by himself without a single scratch. If he continues to develop and follows this career path, Korea has a chance to reclaim the title of the only one, the title for the strongest contractor." Kim Legan heard this and stammered a question back to the head coach, realizing he might have spoken too soon. He just waved it off and replied, "Perhaps because it's been a long time since we've seen such a genius, I got a bit excited and said that." But that wasn't the biggest surprise. The name in second place, Choi Aron, was the one that caught them most off guard. Lee Sang-chun never thought the girl would play solo, but the truth was, she had completed it, even if it took a bit of time and she suffered quite a few injuries. He asked the homeroom teacher if this test was about team action. Jun So-jun definitely would have had a higher score, but Kim Joo-hyuk and Choi Aron got higher points for their individual contribution level. But the results are already in. I won't discuss this any further. Even though the teacher said that, Kim Legan was still a bit suspicious. He had met the girl while she was in the Jojin Guild. Erin was like a model student. She only knew how to practice swordsmanship, but now she had the crazy idea of clearing a dungeon alone. For a moment, he thought Kim Joo-hyuk must have instigated it. But then he dismissed that crazy thought. The next day, just as predicted, the ranking board shocked everyone. Roxio Ventric looked at Kim Joo-hyuk's name, staring him right in the face, which really got under his skin. He turned to his assistant and asked, "Jasera is in Korea, right? Call him immediately." Julia knew there was trouble, but as the gopher, she had to obey. That same day, at a restaurant in Jamsu, Seoul, Roxio rushed out to meet Jasera. As soon as he saw the scarred guy, he waved to greet him. Then, as if he hadn't eaten in 15 days, the guy sliced the steak and stuffed it into his mouth, chewing ravenously. While eating, Jasera mumbled, "Sarah, so the guy you want me to take care of, this Kim Joo-hyuk, what did he do? It's been a long time since I've had a chance to open my mouth." Roxio immediately replied, "Nothing. He just annoys me with his low-class background. Please, send him back to where he belongs." Oh, so he's just a classist. All living beings are equal, except for me, the elitist thought. Jasera tried to finish his bite of steak, looked up and asked, "Can I kill him?" Roxio nonchalantly nodded and said, "Do whatever you want." Then, Jasera pointed at Julia, revealing that he had just killed an old lady from her family clan just for being a busybody. Leaving her trembling with fear, he let out a savage laugh and told Roxio to start preparing his payment. A week passed. Because he was the top scorer of the exam, Kim Joo-hyuk was allowed to go out for a bit. The teacher saw this and kept nagging, "Didn't I tell you to go out?" Not wanting to argue with this meddlesome guy, Kim Joo-hyuk just said he needed to go find the records in Suwon. Carrying his luggage and turning on Google Maps, he wandered to a hill. Just as he was about to sit down, enjoy the view, and have some tea and cake, someone came to bother him. Kim Joo-hyuk stopped, looked at the guy in front of him, and asked for his name, background, and hometown. "What the hell are you doing here?" Jasera, of course, didn't answer. He ignored the question and started rambling. "Are you wondering why, out of everyone else? I'm the one who found you on this mountain?" Kim Joo-hyuk, of course, knew why. "I used to be a sword king. He wasn't stupid." "What? Are you saying that after we're done, you'll leave here as if nothing happened?" Exactly what I was thinking. Meeting a fellow soulmate who understood him perfectly, both immediately took a defensive stance and rushed into the fight. Kim Joo-hyuk dropped his backpack with a thud. Jasera aggressively threw a punch. Just as the hand was about to touch his cheek, Kim Joo-hyuk dodged instantly. The fist went straight into the tree in front of him, splitting it in two. Jasera seemed extremely excited. He turned to his opponent and threatened, "Oh, you're pretty lucky. You dodged that one. If you hadn't dodged, then you'd know your own fate, right?" Kim Joo-hyuk lazily smirked and replied, "Luck? No, I dodged it because your attack was too slow." Glancing at the destruction the guy had just caused, I wasn't stupid enough to realize that the guy was definitely very strong, perhaps even equal to or better than Oh Se-hyuk. Kim Joo-hyuk judged that it was too dangerous for him. This frail body couldn't take a hit, so the best of the 36 strategies was to run. Not wanting to let his prey escape, Jasera gleefully gave chase. Just when he thought he had it in the bag, Kim Joo-hyuk suddenly turned around and landed a punch right in his face, knocking him flat on the ground. To defeat the enemy, you have to cripple them. Kim Joo-hyuk smiled menacingly, raised his leg and stomped down. That strike was mere inches from his face. Thank heavens. Jasera gritted his teeth, twisting and spinning just in time to dodge. One more second and he would have been headed straight for surgery. The guy scrambled up, wiping blood from his mouth, gnashing his teeth and barking out, "You bastard! You actually caught me off guard!" Kim Joo-hyuk didn't miss a beat. "In a heartbeat, you should have known I'm the top-ranked fighter here at Valhalla." Jasera went silent. He knew, sure, but he couldn't wrap his head around what kind of drugs this guy was on to get this strong. The Vanchik family members used their innate talent to push their combat stats to the limit, even if only by a fraction. The talent of that family was a natural aptitude for crafting, and Jasera could easily pump himself full of any concoction handed to him. His parents had fed him hundreds of thousands of boosters. By age 16, he was already stronger than a grown man. His parents wanted to use him to gain recognition from the family, but once he spread his wings, Jasera refused to spend his life under their thumb. So, he sent his parents off to the afterlife and got himself exiled by the self-proclaimed head of the family. Jasera didn't care. In this dark world, every time he took a contract, money solved most problems. He became even more reckless after cutting ties with his clan. When he got the request from Rockjil offered cash, but honestly, he was more intrigued by Kim Joo-hyuk, so he just asked for his life instead. He wondered how fun would it be to mess with the top ranker of the entrance exam. The guy was called a lunatic for spewing insults just to weed out the association's spies. How entertaining would it be to break him? But as he stood there facing Kim Joo-hyuk, a different question popped into his mind. Who exactly is this guy? After a few seconds of silence, Gesera spoke up. Hey, what kind of drugs are you using to get this strong? I don't think an orphan like you could afford anything but cheap, bottom-shelf junk. Kim Joo-hyuk burst out laughing, clutching his stomach for a long while. Finally, he replied, Drugs? Ha ha ha! You total moron, what are you babbling about? So you're just a steroid junkie, huh? Gesera felt humiliated but remained stubborn. He asked again, Are you seriously telling me you didn't use drugs to get strong? The more Kim Joo-hyuk heard this idiot ramble, the more excited he got to just beat the pulp out of him. Rolling his shoulders and neck, he replied, Of course not. You absolute idiot. I got strong through hard work and training. In a way, I could compare you to Ursula, but that would be rude. To compare a natural-born powerhouse like her to someone like you. Stung by the insult, Gesera boiled with rage. He whipped out his weapon, muttering, You dead man walking. But wait, was he so high on pills he was hallucinating? Gesera had just pulled out his blade, shrouded in magical power, and was about to say something cool. But before he could, he took a heavy hit to the head. You think I'd let you off that easily? You really are a moron, aren't you? What kind of idiot just stands there letting his opponent power up? He beat the guy to a pulp while trash-talking him mercilessly. His mouth was on point. 10 out of 10. Gesera held up his hands, pleading for mercy, but Kim Joo-hyuk wasn't finished. He grabbed him by the hair, shoving his face close with a savage grin. You don't get to pass out yet, you drug-addled loser. I was going to let you go, but all you did was keep begging for a fight. And you said you were going to take care of me, right? So I can't let you go now. Anyway, I've got a few questions, so grit your teeth. Looking at that fist coming his way, Gesera was terrified, his face turning pale as he shrieked in despair. Talk about biting off more than you can chew. Thinking you could keep up with the big leagues? Keep dreaming, sweetheart. Meanwhile, at the Valhalla dorms, Rockjill was anxiously waiting for good news from his senior, firmly believing that by now, Kim Joo-hyuk would be dead. Little did he know, the one who actually needed a casket was Gesera. Rockjill happily told Julia to get the car ready to go pick up the body. Just then, Gesera called. Rockjill grabbed the phone eagerly. Yes, senior. Did you take care of him? The other end was silent, save for a few painful groans. Then came a familiar voice. I bet you have no clue what's going on, do you? I wonder what kind of look you've got on your face right now. Here, let me be the translator for your bro. If I die, light 2 incense sticks for me. Just wait for me. Gesera's face turned ash gray, and he hung up immediately, not giving Kim Joo-hyuk a second more to speak. Now he was terrified that his dirty work would be exposed, terrified of the karma coming back to bite him. At this rate, it was only a matter of time before the news reached the Vanchik family. Rockjill clutched his head in silence, his mind already plotting to eliminate Kim Joo-hyuk. Once again, he assumed the guy was just a lowly commoner, so nothing could possibly go wrong. If I just keep it quiet for a while, it'll all blow over. Back on Kim Joo-hyuk's side, after dealing with the blockhead, the master and student kept lugging their packs, searching for the ruins. Bak Cheol couldn't help but ask, Did that guy leave his brain at home or something? Why didn't you just kill him, master? Exhausted by his chatty student, he finally replied, If this were the past me, I would have taken his head off in an instant. But for now, I'm just a high school student. That made sense, so Bak Cheol stroked his chin, still puzzled. Oh, but there's something I'm a bit worried about. I'm talking about the magic that guy was giving off. It felt strangely familiar. If he had been able to unleash a bit more of it, I could have been sure. But I've already encountered something like this before. Don't you feel anything, teacher? Oh, so it's just magic. Kim Joo-hyuk didn't find anything special about it since he's never been a devil anyway, so he just brushed it off. Returning to what that guy Gesera confessed after having a few fingers broken, Kim Joo-hyuk looked at him and whispered, probing, Who sent you to find me? Oh, that's right, I already broke your jaw, didn't I? Then he reached into the guy's mouth and snapped it back into place. Crack. Your jaw is back in position. Now you can open your mouth. Gesera was still stubborn, but after watching his fingers being broken one by one, he had to speak up. Roxio Ventric sent me. I am Gesera of the first race. I was hired as a mercenary. According to what the guy said, the Constellation was the first race to worship the blade of the faceless, and he was someone who had made a covenant with a constellation, Gisera, confidently boasting, "If I had just 30 more seconds to gather my energy, the result of this match would have been different." Hearing this guy's nonsense was giving him a headache. He was planning to let him go if he showed remorse, but Kim Joo-hyuk reconsidered. "Better keep your mouth shut," he spoke, then snapped the guy's jaw right back to where it was. First Race, that was a name he felt he had heard before. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately went online to search for it, and a series of news articles popped up. Most of them were not very good news. Kim Joo-hyuk was quite annoyed, so he didn't even need to take notes anymore. He was going to settle the score with that jerk Roxio. To teach this scumbag a lesson, he came up with a bold idea for this era. "I need to use high technology, not just raw power." Fortunately, he had recorded all of Gisera's confession, so now he just needed to find a place to post it, and he was done. Game over, that was easy. You guys thought you could mess with me? Kim Joo-hyuk called that lady Lilia to ask for a favor. She thought he was calling to ask to be her assistant, so she was thrilled and picked up immediately. "That's not why I'm calling. Do you know any reporters?" Kim Joo-hyuk replied right away, cutting off her train of thought. The very next day, news about the Ventrick family plotting to kill a student at Valhalla quickly climbed the hot search list. The content had been embellished, but, in short, it still dug deep into the Ventrick family and Roxio. Netizens had drama to follow and couldn't stop discussing it. Looking at the results he created, Kim Joo-hyuk smiled with satisfaction. This is what modern warfare looks like. The elderly doctor also had to praise him. "You lived 300 years ago, but you're so attuned to modern culture, I must say. You're as fast as lightning." Previously, when he first reincarnated, Kim Joo-hyuk had faced many difficulties, but he had focused on getting used to everything by scrolling through forums and watching the news, which is why he's so savvy now. Reading through all the articles that had just been posted, Kim Joo-hyuk complained wearily, "But this is such a pity. I only wanted to target Roxio, but all the reporters went and posted this, attacking the entire family, Ventrick." However, what he didn't expect was that because of this, the head of the family had to hold a press conference to apologize in front of the cameras. She showed a sincere attitude, but she denied any guilt and took no responsibility herself. She only expressed pity and promised to visit and apologize to the victim personally, without giving any other explanation. Roxio watched the news, his face turning as green as a frog's. Just then, his father called to inform him that he had to return to the country immediately, following orders from the family the next day. For personal gain, with his prison sentence reduced to only 5 years, Gisera had sold himself out, claiming to be the one behind the incident instead of that scumbag. "I was transported like cargo on a prisoner ship across the Pacific Ocean to arrive at the prison tower. This place was created by an S-rank constellation, the prison of deprivation. The prison could turn those with false covenants into ordinary humans." Gisera was happily thinking to himself, "All I have to do is keep my mouth shut and Roxio can stay in the family. If I do that, they'll reduce my sentence to 5 years, otherwise it will be miserable." 5 years. What is that? His train of thought was suddenly cut off. A voice emitted from the side, sounding truly terrifying. "What an ugly face." Gisera only managed to look up once before his head was severed. No time left for final words. At the Ventrick mansion, Roxio's father, Eden, and his son were bowing to the person opposite them. "Roxio, what do you intend to do now?" she asked. The father and son quickly kowtowed to apologize, but that wasn't enough to soothe the rage of the family head. If people could just apologize after killing someone, this world would be in chaos. After hearing Roxio's lame excuse, the person opposite became even more furious. A terrifying flow of mana erupted, causing them to be scared out of their wits. She stepped forward, leaning close to Roxio's face, and said, "What should we do now?" Roxio Ventrick realized the fear now. He cowered like a dog about to be put on the operating table, immediately kneeling down. "I will do anything to restore the family's honor." Hearing this guy speak, it felt more and more ridiculous. "The only way to restore the family's honor is to disown you, isn't it?" Hearing about disownment, the old man, Eden, who had been standing by, finally intervened. "Family head, isn't this punishment a bit too harsh?" She turned sharply to ask him, "Do you want to be like your son too?" The old man stayed silent, not daring to utter a single word anymore. At this moment, she just wanted to kill or disown these two right away. But doing so would be no different than confessing that he was the one behind everything. Thinking for a moment, the family head sighed and said dismissively, "For now, I will not exile you back to Van Hala, and keep your mouth shut. After I meet Kim Joo-hyuk, I will rethink that matter. Now get out." Even though he was spared, Roxio wasn't stupid enough not to realize that sooner or later he would be disowned. It was just that because the media was involved, she couldn't do anything yet. So, before that happened, he would have to do something. Because he had nothing else left, Roxio looked at his father and said, "Father, you have to help me too." The old man had always pampered his precious son, so he didn't even need to ask. He already knew, so he could only caution, "No matter what happens, you must be discreet." Truly, a pair of father and son whose apple didn't fall far from the tree. A few days later, at Valhalla Academy. When Kim Joo-hyuk heard that the head of the Ventric family was personally coming to apologize, he found it incredibly annoying. I didn't want to meet her at all. But eventually, persuaded by his mentor and knowing they were the biggest donors to this academy, he reluctantly agreed. She walked in looking extremely aristocratic, but Kim Joo-hyuk couldn't care less. "Nice to meet Kim Joo-hyuk. I am the head of the Ventric family, Adelia Ventric." Kim Joo-hyuk gave a perfunctory reply, "Yeah, nice to meet you." They stared at each other awkwardly for a moment before she finally spoke up. "We issued an official statement right after the attack, but unfortunately, neither the media nor the public seems to believe it. So I want to tell you this. I also want to open up an opportunity for us to resolve this misunderstanding. Can you help us, Kim Joo-hyuk?" Oh my God, give me a break. She was speaking as if those lies of hers were the absolute truth. What a total scumbag. Kim Joo-hyuk replied with just one word, not wanting to waste any more brainpower trying to convince her. "No." Adelia laid out a massive list of benefits, from full financial backing until graduation, and guaranteed employment afterwards, painting a picture of him becoming Korea's top hunter. It sounded tempting enough to make anyone drool, but he was drowning in gold already. He didn't care at all. Kim Joo-hyuk pointed right at her and retorted, "I don't need rewards or anything of the sort. I just want to see how you all live with the disgrace that rock you left on the Ventric name." She was truly furious now. Her elitist mask had slipped, replaced by a terrifying expression as she spat out, "You complete piece of trash. Who do you think you're talking to? I came to this filthy academy to make things comfortable and convenient for you, and yet you dare to act arrogant? Should I just kill you right here and now? I tried to be generous and offer you a chance, yet you just throw it away like that?" What a foul mouth she had. It sounded cool and badass, but Kim Joo-hyuk wasn't one to back down. 10 out of 10, no notes. He retorted, "Didn't you say the Ventric family was completely uninvolved in the assassination attempt on me?" Continued from above, "Uninvolved in the assassination attempt on me? To bolster that lie, you want to pour a ton of money and time into me, but now you want to kill me? Oh, and by the way, even if you really did attack me, you wouldn't be able to kill me anyway." Adelia was fuming, ready to flip the table, but couldn't do a thing. She just had to grab her coat and leave. Before she did, she didn't forget to tell Kim Joo-hyuk to remember her face. Once things quieted down, Bosch complained, "Teacher, was it really necessary to make such a big scene? Even though I'm a constellation, I don't want to get involved in this nonsense." Kim Joo-hyuk was already irritated, so he took it out on Bosch, yelling at him until the guy couldn't even lift his head. Exhausted by these rich snobs, Kim Joo-hyuk decided to drag his weak body to the training room early, but as a magnet for drama, bad luck followed him everywhere. Right as he reached the entrance to the training grounds, he bumped into the Choi siblings. Choi Jin-gun was in the middle of an argument. Standing by and listening, Kim Joo-hyuk heard Choi Jin-gun belittling and forcing Aaron not to take the entrance exam, which made his blood boil. He had to step in like a hero. Kim Joo-hyuk jumped into the verbal fray, pointing straight at the guy to look tough. "You jerk! That's right, you! How could you want to stop someone who has put in so much sweat and effort into their training?" Suddenly, some random guy jumped in talking nonsense. Choi Jin-gun calmly asked, "Who the hell are you to dare yell at me?" Kim Joo-hyuk didn't care who the hell he was. If he didn't like him, he'd insult him. He replied immediately, "Why are there so many losers today who love to flaunt their fake power? I don't give a damn if you're a king, a CEO, or whatever. Don't you dare intrude on academy grounds and make demands of a student. If you're done barking, get lost." After cursing him out, he turned to Choi Aaron for approval. The girl had been like a ghost until now, but when called out, she agreed with both hands and feet. Choi Jin-gun didn't want to bicker anymore and stormed off angrily. Of course, he left a parting threat for his little sister. "You'll understand the situation when the test comes, Choi Arin." Like a drowning person grabbing a life raft, she turned to thank Kim Joo-hyuk for his help, but Aaron was even crazier than he thought. She emphasized that if it were her, after cursing him out, she wouldn't have said "get lost," but rather something much more vulgar. Before she could finish, he cut her off, dragged her to the training room, and started working her to the bone. He'd wasted too much time on that scumbag. A few days later, Kim Joo-hyuk packed his bags and headed to the hills near Siheum to start his treasure hunt. Boshi curiously asked in a low voice, "Teacher, haven't you already found plenty of artifacts and storage stones from your old records?" I didn't understand that human greed is bottomless. Of course, Kim Joo-hyuk had. But he still wanted to know how much more was left in those records, and he thought there might be some miracle hidden inside. If he found them, he might be able to overcome the major physical weaknesses of this fragile body. At the same time, at the Choi Jin family estate, countless reporters and journalists were gathering. They were there because today was the day of the family's selection exam. Inside, the clan head, Choi Jan-seok, asked his two children one last time to be sure. "The selection exam is about to begin. As I, your father, have declared before, if you pass the selection exam, you will be recognized as the heir to the family. Failure means exile. Are you both ready?" The answer, yes, seemed to please the old man, who then continued to explain the rules of the trial. The objective was to find the pair of twin blades hidden somewhere on the mountain. "Whoever finds the twin blades and brings them before me will be declared the winner of this trial. The method doesn't matter, but killing is strictly prohibited. Now start the trial." As the signal sounded, Choi Arin took off running into the forest to search, while her brother, on the other hand, was quite relaxed. He already had a plan. Just wait for her to find the blades, then swoop in and snatch them. Everything would be over then. Clean and easy, and the position of clan leader would be right in his grasp. What a lazy, good-for-nothing parasite, expecting a free meal without lifting a finger. Only a fool would think that works. Saying is one thing, but he immediately set his dirty plan in motion. While his little sister was sniffing around everywhere, exhausted to the point of collapse trying to track down the blades, her brother just swaggered out and started asking pointless questions. "Busy tracking it with the magic traces, are you? Who taught you that trick?" Choi Arin was a good girl. She answered whoever asked, and this time was no exception. She replied, "Joo-hyuk," then drew her sword and took a stance, preparing for a solo match just like her friend had taught her. That she had to relax her entire body and use her fingertips and toes to gently release her magic, slowly letting that magical energy flow throughout her body until she could feel it, existing in every single strand of her hair, sensing the magic slowly, gradually, and even picking up the magic radiating from those around her. Thanks to that, it was easy to spot the lingering magical residue on the ground or in the air. Man, that's insane. Isn't that just like a dog's nose? But thanks to everything Kim Joo-hyuk had taught her, she was getting closer to the goal. If only this scumbag brother of hers hadn't stepped in to block her path. Hearing the name of the guy who'd insulted him before, Choi Jong-un sneered with utter contempt, approached his sister, and threw a jab at Kim Joo-hyuk. "Oh, I see. You mean that shameless bastard who was with you before? That guy looks like an idiot. Does he actually have any real talent? He could insult her all he wanted, but mocking Kim Joo-hyuk? That guy was just asking for death." Choi Arin bit her lip hard and retorted, "He's way stronger than someone like you. Why are you even here?" Choi Jong-un acted like he'd just been hit in his sweet spot. He excitedly drew his sword and slashed forward. "Why do you think? The reason I'm here is this." Thinking his sister was still as weak as a twig, he acted all high and mighty, thinking he was the best. But barely seconds into his aggression, reality slapped him right in the face. Choi Jong-un blocked the attack and wondered, "Wait, not only did she resist, but she's pushing me back? What the hell? Since when did she get this strong?" Choi Arin attacked relentlessly, swinging her sword without tiring. Choi Jong-un panted like a bull and whined, "What, did you learn to be a wild boar at school? Your charges have gotten a lot stronger, haven't they?" Choi Arin didn't care. These empty words couldn't bother her pure heart. She replied, "Just give up on finding the twin blades." That pushed him over the edge. Being beaten by a girl to the point where he couldn't even dodge, and then being told to give up? Who could take that kind of humiliation? Choi Jong-un exploded in a rage. He kicked off the ground and lunged straight at her. Choi Aran seized the moment, pivoted, and slashed upward, throwing him off balance. He tumbled to the ground. As he dropped his weapon, she flipped her sword hilt and drove it straight into his gut. Choi Jong-un took the full combo and ended up face down in the dirt. Only then did she let out a sigh of relief. She'd been confident she'd land at least one hit, but she never expected it to be such a decisive strike. Without much time to spare, Choi Aran picked up her weapon and prepared to dash off to find the blades. "You don't really think you've won, do you?" The question from behind made her freeze for a few seconds. When she turned around, her opponent was in a state of total loss of control, a dark, sinister mana coating his body. "You're a villain. Have you fallen into the demonic path? Why?" Choi Aran looked at him and asked. Choi Jong-un didn't answer. He just charged with his sword, aiming straight for a lethal spot. Aran didn't have time to dodge and took a direct hit across her stomach. So that was it. He had joined a group called the Soul Cult, the third most dangerous group of villains in the world, which was why he had such power now. She clutched her wound, looking up at her brother with a curious gaze. "Is it really better to join them? What about your own life?" A question so naive it made the listener laugh. Choi Jong-un hoisted his sword onto his shoulder and answered frankly, "Listen, I want power and absolute authority. I want to escape these petty needs. I want to have it all." He then went on a rant, complaining about his life as the eldest son of the Choijin family. "I had to be the perfect role model. The only reason I stayed in the Jinza Guild was because of the old man's supervision and because I wanted the position of clan leader. And above all, the condition to enter the Soul Cult was the ancestral twin blades. If 15 years ago, her sister hadn't participated in that first selection trial, he would have had those artifacts in his hands already. It's just that back then, he was only 12, so he couldn't control his greed. Before he could find these blades, he killed her on the mountain. But he was just unlucky, or maybe it was just fate. He still couldn't find the artifact, ended up severely injured and failed the trial. But now he was older, so he couldn't let that mistake happen again. Choi Jong-un raised his sword with a manic expression. "Give my regards to your sister, will you?" Aran could only sit there helplessly, waiting for death to claim her. Anyway, she had no strength left to fight back. But it's not over until it's over, just at the most critical moment about to give up. Anyway, she's got no strength left to fight back now, but it's not over until it's over. You aren't done until you're in the grave, and she was at death's door, about to beg for mercy. Just when things were cooling down, Kim Joo-hyuk appeared out of nowhere like a god, stopping the blade in a split second. He stared at the guy and snapped, "What the hell do you think you're doing, you psycho? What kind of madman holds a sword to his own sister's throat?" No sooner had he said that than he sent the guy flying a few meters back. Turns out Kim Joo-hyuk had come to find the treasure, and since it was right there, he'd managed to intervene just in time. Otherwise, Aran would only be allowed to visit home twice a month. Suddenly interrupted, Choi Jong-un flew into a rage, charging at him while screaming, "This is a private family matter, so get lost." Big talk, but he still missed his swing. Hai then ate a full combo from Kim Joo-hyuk and went down instantly. You'd think that was the end of it, but no, he was still raring to go. Choi Jong-un lurched back to his feet, and all around him, a massive surge of demonic energy erupted from his sword. He had completely lost his mind, fixated solely on death, and charged at his opponent to strike. "You trash. You're just a first year at Valhalla Academy, and you think you can defeat the leader of a crime syndicate?" he roared, charging forward with all his might while yapping his mouth. Kim Joo-hyuk wasn't one to back down. Even though the guy was attacking with a magic-infused sword, he dodged it with ease. Hai even turned the tables and started beating up the self-proclaimed syndicate leader. Realizing he had no other choice, the guy pulled a stone out of his pocket and just gulped it down. It turned out to be an artificial relic containing power from the constellation he'd made a contract with. Once Choi Jong-un was fully buffed, a wave of magic exploded, as if he were showing off. The power covered the entire sky. The reporters and even the head of the Choi family were stunned. Tradition dictated they shouldn't interfere with the selection trial, but the situation was too dangerous, so he had to get off his butt to see what was happening. The father was worried, while his son was the source of all the chaos. Choi Jong-un was thrilled, shouting, "This is a special effect. It's part of the power I gained from my contract with the constellation. This will be your grave!" Following his words came a series of notifications about the appearance of the constellation, the Dragon of Destruction. Realizing the relic's presence, the Dragon of Destruction descended. It bared its fangs as if it hadn't been this happy in ages, The Dragon of Destruction was blah blah blahing, yapping away. Then it activated its skill, Gluttonous Eye. But when it faced Kim Joo-hyuk, it got a little spooked. It pulled back its eye immediately, then activated it again, looking like a lunatic. Finally, the more it looked at Kim Joo-hyuk, the more terrified it became, to the point where it rejected the relic's call and shattered the contract, then turned tail and ran. If it didn't move fast, even a constellation would end up dead. Kim Joo-hyuk looked at the bewildered guy and used his sword hilt to give him a complimentary smack. Back at the lair of the grave-robbing Dragon King, Hannibal, he was getting absolutely scorched by that very dragon for causing such a huge mess. Suddenly being cursed out without knowing why, he could only bow his head, grit his teeth, and bear it, swearing to himself that he'd get to the bottom of this. What could have scared that constellation so much? After finding his goods, Kim Joo-hyuk headed straight back to his dorm room, holding the divine martial arts book in his hands, his heart brimming with joy. He hugged it close and took a deep breath. It was a book containing breathing techniques to circulate energy, capable of raising one's magic power to a very high level. Butcher asked curiously, "Is this different from the technique you used in your past life?" Kim Joo-hyuk replied excitedly that the breathing technique he used before was just garbage. Back when he was weak, he'd just bought a random one at the market, mastered it, and stuck with it until the end. It wasn't anything impressive. Butcher was stunned speechless upon hearing that. He climbed to the top of the server with a random item and was still that humble? If he'd gotten his hands on good gear, he probably would have slaughtered them all. And besides, before finding the divine martial arts book, Kim Joo-hyuk couldn't change his breathing technique because the old one had already become second nature. That was why he was defeated when fighting Butcher, but not anymore. I was going to start over in this life with a new cultivation method. Kim Joo-hyuk wore a wicked smile, then stroked the book mysteriously. He had already planned out his new strategy in his head. I'll stop physical training for a while because I need to learn these divine martial arts first. He was lost in thought when Butcher suddenly cut in, curious about whether the ending back on the mountain turned out all right. Kim Joo-hyuk was overconfident. He'd heard someone nearby, so he'd left. Besides, he had warned Aaron thoroughly not to expose him, so there wouldn't be any issues. Only the Choi family was in trouble now. Because the press had arrived to cover the succession trial, the event was splashed all over the news immediately. The Choi family had done something shameful. It was no surprise that the articles claimed they were colluding with the world's most notorious criminal organization, the Grave Robbers. However, that wasn't all. Not only was Choi Jong-un handed over to the police, but the association also sent them a letter of warning. But every cloud has a silver lining. Aaron wasn't seriously injured and had been taken for treatment. Some articles even mentioned her as a hero for defeating a grave robber member. The situation was complex, but it seemed the press was on her side. Seeing the clan head still worried, a subordinate spoke up. "Isn't it a relief, sir? This selection trial ended in chaos. But the next clan head has already been determined. These articles will help the girl firmly secure her position as the successor." The father thought, I suppose so, but still had doubts about how Aaron managed to defeat Jong-un by herself. A few days later, Aaron seemed to be recovering from the accident. However, she couldn't continue training with Kim Joo-hyuk because her health wouldn't allow it. And lately, he was busy with his own breathing stuff, so he didn't have time to put himself through the ringer either. While recalling key points, Butcher remembered a few clues about the demonic energy that the guy Rock Deal and Jong-un had used. However, he still felt there was something veiled. He needed to find a way to satisfy the second condition so that this mental barrier could be lifted. The second condition, the Eye of the Great Forest, was something that Kim Joo-hyuk could barely reach, as he could only go there during the final exams. Just as he was bored and tearing his hair out, trying to figure out how to find the Eye of the Great Forest, something or other, his instructor called him to the office to talk. Basically, there was a school competition held next month, so the school was considering who to send, and they decided to select those with the highest scores from the midterm exams. Of course, there's no way Kim Joo-hyuk is escaping the fate of being sent off as a lackey. Before the instructor could even open his mouth, Kim Joo-hyuk shot back with a deadpan, "I refuse." Kim Lee-gun looked hurt, but he didn't say a word. He just stared at him and replied, "I haven't even gotten to the important part yet." With so much else to do, having to sit here and listen to the old man blabber on was exhausting. Kim Joo-hyuk urged him to hurry it up. the three biggest hunter training academies in the world: Valhalla in Korea, Baekryun in China, and Haojai in the US. Each school will select a few freshmen as representatives to compete against each other. The competition includes duels, escaping from a labyrinth, and many other challenges. Hearing all that just gave him a head. Kim Joo-hyuk yawned, waiting for the good part he hadn't heard yet. Just as he was about to refuse again, the instructor put on a mysterious act and said, "But aren't you in desperate need of reaching the eye of the great forest soon?" That one question instantly changed Kim Joo-hyuk's attitude. He waited curiously for him to continue. "Yes, that is where the final exam will take place, and the inter-academy competition will be held there as well. Essentially, it's no different from the final exam. And of course, anyone who passes that test will be exempt from the final." That sounded enticing. Could have said that sooner and saved us both the trouble. With that condition on the table, Kim Joo-hyuk, of course, agreed to join immediately. Meanwhile, in the UK, the head of the Ventic family, Adelia, was interrogating a servant about the plan they were carrying out and the whereabouts of the Robin family. The family drama was nothing to write home about, but the servant, being a gossip, reported some shocking news. "They say they're building a building out of paper receipts down at the market." Quoting the guy exactly, he meant to put it politely, but what he really meant, folks, was that they were building it out of cold, hard cash. And according to his source, Black Cat was the one directly responsible for this. Though calling him responsible is a stretch, Black Cat didn't have a clue what his constellation was trying to pull. He just heard the constellation say it was a gift. Just a gift for someone, that's all. And his constellation also ordered Black Cat to track down the person who sold that ring as quickly as possible. The next day, while Kim Lee-gun was hard at work, head coach Lee Sang-cheon approached and asked if he had finished selecting the team members for the upcoming inter-academy competition. Kim Lee-gun nodded and said, "It's done," handing him the list of participants. Lee Sang-cheon was shocked to see Kim Joo-hyuk's name on it. He couldn't believe that cheeky brat had actually agreed. Seeing his curiosity, Kim Lee-gun explained that he hadn't wanted to participate at first, but when he heard it would be held at the eye of the great forest, he suddenly changed his mind, flipping faster than a pancake. Lee Sang-cheon didn't say it out loud, but he knew in his heart that the kid was there for some hidden agenda. As the head coach, he ordered the teachers to clear their schedules so he could meet with the youngsters and give them some instructions. All 5 participants were present: Ao Se-hee, Ju So-jun, Choi Arin, Do Jung-jin, and Kim Joo-hyuk. Now that everyone was there, the instructor went straight to the point. There were 3 parts to the competition. First was a duel between students, just like the entrance exam. The second part was team combat. 5 students from each academy would form a team and face off against the others. But here's the kicker. All 3 teams would fight at the same time. The final part involved the eye of the great forest. Upon hearing the thing he needed, Kim Joo-hyuk went quiet and perked up his ears. To not miss a single word, he listened intently as Lee Sang-cheon gave a brief overview of the forest's terrain. The eye of the great forest is a labyrinth, true to its name. It's a forest dense with trees, unlike any ordinary woods. The gates are heavily guarded, and designed so tightly that even a fly couldn't sneak through. The only way in is through the main gate, and everyone's specific mission will be assigned on the day. Since time was short, the instructor immediately explained the details and the format of the team battle before moving straight into training. At this point, Kim Joo-hyuk raised his hand. "Can I train alone, sir?" The instructor actually agreed and even asked if anyone else wanted to do the same. Arin had always said she'd do whatever Kim Joo-hyuk did, so she wanted to train in peace too. In fact, she only agreed to join the team because he was in it. Once things wrapped up, everyone left quickly. Suddenly, Arin turned to Kim Joo-hyuk. "Should I join the training?" Kim Joo-hyuk was surprised, but he understood her current condition and gave her some advice. Deep down, Arin had a strange intention. She wanted to grow stronger alongside him and help him achieve what he wanted, just as he had helped her. A month later, on the first day of the inter-academy competition, students from Valhalla arrived to cheer, feeling very excited. Robin Ventic was also there to watch the show. Before this, he had used his father's money to hire a group of assassins to eliminate Kim Joo-hyuk. They were the Samson group from Insina, a veteran assassination squad of 3 who had never failed. But that was in the past. Now that they were messing with Kim Joo-hyuk, it was anyone's guess. They had hatched a plan to take him out on the 3rd day of the competition, inside the eye of the great forest, by sneaking in after another contestant. because they had intel that only surveillance drones would be there, and no judges would actually step foot into the forest. To start the competition, the Valhalla Council president, Sim Deun, gave a few opening remarks and introduced the representatives from each school. Looking at the kids below, head coach Lee Sang-cheon felt a bit uneasy. I was lost in thought when he was suddenly interrupted by the veteran guide, Jack Robert. As soon as he saw his teammate, he teased, "Third place again, huh?" Not that his own school was any different last year. Jack Robert said confidently that this year would be different, because this time they had the son of the head of the contractors, the only one present, Logan's son, Logan J. He had formed a contract with the destroyer of everything. Even if he wasn't as skilled as his father, he could take down a fully-fledged contractor in a heartbeat. Lee Sang-cheon listened, just gave a cold, and replied, "My friend, you'll understand that reaction soon enough. Once you've watched this match. The first match is between Kim Joo-hyuk of Valhalla and Logan of Heroes. The rules are simple. Whoever takes down their opponent first wins. Even if you strike a weak point, the arena's system will automatically minimize the damage. Instead, it sends a painful electric shock to the target, so feel free to go all out and attack. There won't be any interference." Kim Joo-hyuk, who's been sleepy the whole time, wonders why they even need this protection system. The teacher, looking bored, explains it to his block-headed student. "I needs to understand the importance of being able to fight through day 1 and day 2 to even make it to day 3. The start signal rings out. Kim Joo-hyuk lunges in, but his punch is blocked. His opponent looks down on him and asks dismissively, "Do you think you're that strong?" Kim Joo-hyuk responds politely for a second, then immediately changes his tone, spitting out a challenge. "But how long can you actually take a hit, huh?" With that, he winds up his fist and delivers a solid blow to his opponent's stomach. The guy loses his footing. He clutches his gut, retreats, and uses his destroyer skill to charge back in. Kim Joo-hyuk, having lost a few hairs, quickly dodges and delivers a ruthless kick straight to the guy's body. "Why are you doing this, man?" Logan stammers, struggling to stand up despite having only taken 2 hits. He feels like he's about to pass out. He's still got an ace up his sleeve. Logan slams his hands into the ground, shattering the arena floor, and gives it a light kick, sending debris flying everywhere. Turns out he's using it as a wall. He's trying to mask his movements to attack from the shadows, but Kim Joo-hyuk has eyes like a hawk. There's nothing he misses. Before long, he spots him through the rubble and delivers a critical hit right to Logan's face. The match ends, leaving Jack Rover stunned. He has to blurt out, "That kid is a monster." The tournament continues, and Kim Joo-hyuk dominates, winning time after time without breaking a sweat, all the way to the finals. Surprisingly, his opponent is none other than Choi Arin. The winner gets a full scholarship, a ton of money, so she considers withdrawing. "I don't care who wins," she says. "But don't withdraw, everyone has gathered here already. We have to show what we're capable of." Kim Joo-hyuk speaks up to make Arin reconsider. And obviously, when the teacher speaks, the student must listen. Kim Joo-hyuk stretches and warms up, promising to go easy and be careful not to hurt her. But this going easy thing is a bit weird. The match ends with Choi Arin face-planting into the dirt. It was a direct hit to the point that the teacher has to complain that he's too ruthless. Kim Joo-hyuk still insists he went easy. "I didn't hit her stomach, it was just an accident. Her sword tip suddenly veered into my stomach, so I swiped it away, and that's just how it ended up." Looking at her lying there, he feels he's become much stronger, and this kid isn't half bad either. Still, he has to wait another day to reach the site of the forest. The Great Forest. Kim Joo-hyuk is a bit impatient, so he goes to find his instructor to ask. He approaches and starts, "Sir, about tomorrow's match. If I finish early, can I move on to the next round?" The teacher isn't sure, so he checks the rules. It mentions some exceptions, but basically, if the mission is completed by the afternoon or earlier, the student can receive the next mission at the teacher's discretion. Hearing this, his eyes light up like car headlights. "It says at the teacher's discretion, right? What do you think, sir? Can I move on to the next mission?" The head coach can't deal with this kid anymore and just confirms it. As long as he finishes early and reports to the office, he can start the new mission in the afternoon. "Now, good night. Stop hanging around here." Here, the next day, inside the Yasen Sanctuary in Valhalla, the chairman explains the second competition mission, a team battle. 5 representatives from each school will face off in this mountainous region. Since it's rough terrain, the audience will watch live via 3D holographic screens. With only minutes left before the start, Kim Joo-hyuk hasn't shown his face yet, making the whole team worried. Ju Sojun doesn't stop complaining, cursing him under her breath and wondering where the hell he's dying. When she finally spots his figure looming in the distance, she puts on a sour face and shouts, "Do you have any idea what time it is? You should have been here 30 minutes ago. Did you not listen to the teacher's advice?" Sometimes he really wants to punch that little mouth of hers, but for the sake of the big picture, he just counts to 2, scratches his head, apologizes, and says, "Let me handle this." When Ju Sojun hears this, she immediately objects because this is a team game, not an individual event. Then she starts wagging her finger, lecturing him. But knowing she's got a temper like a short fuse, Kim Joo-hyuk doesn't bother arguing and turns to the others to ask if they have any thoughts. Choi Arin suddenly raises her hand and asks to go with him. Thinking she was going to object, Ju Sojun almost got her hopes up, but then she just stands there fuming, screaming in anger, leaving Kim Joo-hyuk to go solo. Before the match starts, he turns back and tells her to keep it down. She's way too annoying, and he still has to prepare to reach the forest eye by the afternoon. The starting signal immediately blares. It doesn't take long for Kim Joo-hyuk to find the White Lotus team and offer them a few loving sword strikes. Within just a few minutes, he's already kicked them out so he can have time to rest. News of the White Lotus team being eliminated is quickly sent to all players. Logan reads it and breaks into a cold sweat. It's only been 10 minutes. While he's lost in thought, a teammate reports feeling magic nearby, bringing him back to reality. More specifically, it's not a group, it's just one person. Logan reacts quickly, immediately ordering everyone into defensive positions. 2 people at the front set up magic shields. The mage prepares an enhancement spell. Another reinforces the shields while he waits, ready to strike. Everything was prepared so meticulously, as if they were about to face an entire super army. A team member didn't get it and spoke up, "But it's just one guy, right? Do we really need to go to such lengths?" Those who had fought Kim Joo-hyuk before immediately retorted, explaining to her that his power wasn't just that of a regular high schooler. While they were waiting, the team member reported that the magic was fading. Logan let out a sigh of relief, thinking they had left. They just didn't realize that Kim Joo-hyuk had been watching from up in a tree the whole time, and the moment they let their guard down, he suddenly swooped down. He landed with a strike right in the face of the opposing team captain. Before the others could even process what happened, he wiped the floor with them, taking them down before they could even throw a single move. Talk about gender equality. 1 hit each. Game over. Seeing the notification that the brave team was eliminated, Kim Joo-hyuk drew his sword, excited, and muttered, "Now I can move on. To the Forest of Eyes mission, right?" In the Valhalla control room, the teachers still couldn't accept the fact that the match had ended in a mere 23 minutes, and all of it was handled by Kim Joo-hyuk alone. One of them couldn't help but chime in, "Actually, it took him 20 minutes just to walk there." The fight itself only lasted 3 minutes. A national-level competition, and they let Kim Joo-hyuk trash it like this. How embarrassing. The academy chairman stroked his chin, looking worried. "Well, today's schedule is down the drain. Trouble's brewing now." Hearing that, the head coach pulled out the rulebook and talked about starting the next game on the same day, provided there was enough time. With no other choice, the chairman and the other teachers had to agree to this plan. In the lounge, the Valhalla Academy team waited gloomily, not saying a word to each other. Ju Sojun had been staring at Kim Joo-hyuk with bitter eyes for a while now. She had planned to step up because the coach had made her team captain, but before she could do anything, he had stolen all the spotlight. Plus, she had lost to Choi Arin in yesterday's match. That just made her even angrier. Ju Sojun had heard that Kim Joo-hyuk had trained Choi Arin, so she was thinking about swallowing her pride and begging him to teach her too. Just then, the announcement for the next mission came. It was sent to all students a day earlier than expected. Before everyone was about to leave, Kim Joo-hyuk said to them, "I'll head to the Forest of Eyes on my own. Everyone needs to survive on your own. Well, if you run into trouble, you can call me." He finished speaking, but Ju Sojun was still staring at him, so he had to taunt her. "You got something you want to say, little bird?" Suddenly branded with a nickname, she flared up and chewed him out. At 1 p.m., all participating teams were present at the Labyrinth Gate. Like the previous missions, the audience could watch via screen. Before they went inside, the chairman gave more details about the game content and scoring factors. The Forest of Eyes is a labyrinth that looks like a forest with massive trees. There's a special environment within it, one area where it never stops raining. The monsters are low level and not much of a threat, but the rain and thick bushes are the most dangerous elements. The game is meant to test everyone's survival skills. After 5 hours, the better your health, the more bonus points you get. The chairman emphasized that any form of fighting between teams was strictly prohibited. "All right, let's get started," the teacher shouted. At the same time, in an abandoned Valhalla warehouse, the 3 members of the assassination group gathered, preparing to sneak into the Forest of Eyes. The match had only been going for a few minutes. Suddenly, all surveillance cameras in the labyrinth malfunctioned, and communication with the main gate was cut off. The head coach realized this was a serious problem, a danger, to the lives of all students inside the labyrinth. So he ordered the others to head into the Forest of Eyes to rescue them. But when they arrived, they were met with a horrific scene. The guards were already dead, and the entrance was destroyed, filled with rubble. It took about an hour, just to clear a path inside. Logan hadn't even reacted before he was stabbed through the gut. I was stunned. When did he get behind him? Anne smirked. "Still don't get it, huh? Look in front of you." "What the? How are there 2 of him?" Logan was deathly pale. Anne, who was in front of him, smiled wickedly and stabbed him again in the chest. "This is what we call a shadow clone." Logan had absolutely no chance to retaliate. Lisa asked if Anne had stabbed Logan good enough to finish him off. But Anne said he deliberately stabbed him so he would die slowly, just for fun. Right then, the red-haired girl popped out from nowhere. The Samson assassins saw another witness and clicked their tongues. "Just take care of everything and it's done," and told Lisa to just keep using her concealment skill. Lisa told him to hurry up and finish it. An gave a twisted grin and said he knew. He then lunged straight at the red-haired girl. At the same time, Kim Joo-hyuk flew through the forest like a bird, looking for the Great Forest of Eyes, Valhalla's target, to find the witch's house, provided he could find the village sword. Is that so-called witch's house the shack right at the entrance? But there were only trees there, no house at all. Just as he zoomed past, he saw a blonde girl standing there, dazed, then screaming in panic. Of course, and wasn't about to stop just because of a scream. 3 students from the Brave team had fallen. The Samson assassins were having a hard time. Lisa was getting tired of having to deal with a new witness every time they took someone out. Even and was getting annoyed rather than having fun. Right at that moment, "I saw someone. It was their target. Kim Joo-hyuk. The target came to us himself. I guess since I stabbed the others and they screamed, he heard it and ran over here. That's exactly why I didn't kill him, for the fun of it." Joo-hyuk caught on to those 2 targets mentioned by this group. Looking at the people knocked out on the ground, Joo-hyuk told the blonde girl, "I'll handle these guys. You go ahead and stop the bleeding for the injured ones. They're still alive, you know." Just by looking, you could tell the guy didn't strike any vital points to end them right away. Or maybe he did it on purpose to let them bleed out slowly. Talk about a twisted, messed up hobby. "I'm in a really bad mood right now, so you'd better answer my question. How did you punks sneak in here?" "Then I guess this ends in silence," An scoffed, not believing what he just heard from a high school student. He was certain this kid had no idea what kind of situation he was in, which was why he was running his mouth. "Joo-hyuk, you're isolated in this maze now. The only entrance and exit have been completely destroyed by us. Even the surveillance drones are down. You think your instructors are going to notice? Even if they did, they can't get in here immediately. Since the entrance is completely collapsed, it'll probably take them at least an hour just to clear the debris." Ahan seemed very confident in their plan, but to Joo-hyuk, that hour was the maximum amount of time he had to trek through this massive forest and find that thing. Ahan had no clue what the hell Joo-hyuk was muttering about, but he was ready to send him to hell. He used that shadow clone technique again, but this time it was different. Instead of skewering him, his blade slammed straight into the ground. Joo-hyuk had vanished. An had no idea where. "You guys are dead meat." Before he could finish, Joo-hyuk's fist slammed right into the middle of An's nose. Blood sprayed everywhere as he was sent flying like a rag doll. Lisa just stared in shock, and while the 2 were frozen, Joo-hyuk appeared behind them. He decisively knocked each of them out with a blow to the head. Just like that, all 3 members of the Samsam group were taken down and left lying on the ground. "Blonde, hurry up and use your magic to stop the bleeding for those who passed out. If you can handle it on your own, head west. That's where the Valhalla students are." The blonde girl was doing her best. Just then, An woke up, saw his two teammates sprawled out, and panicked. Ju-hyuk immediately stepped on him, mocking him for having such weak teammates. An raised his knife. "Before you beat me to a pulp, answer me. You said I was a target, so who's the client?" An might be a villain, but he had a professional code as an assassin. I wasn't about to reveal his client's identity. Ju-hyuk had never met someone so tight-lipped, which made things a bit tricky. An, too, had never seen someone this annoying, so he was a bit taken aback. This time he went all out, but his shadow clone couldn't even ambush Ju-hyuk. An was stunned. His clone's strike didn't even touch a shadow. He couldn't fathom how this kid dodged it. "Why do you keep trying to sneak attack from behind like a coward?" "Well, what do you expect? Do I really need to be honorable, or are you just obsessed with getting hit in the nose, old man?" Trying to rearrange his face permanently, Ju-hyuk stubbornly asked again who the client was. An refused to talk, sticking to his assassin's honor. "Fine, then I'll just beat you until I'm satisfied." Good grief. This guy was the real villain. When head coach Lee Sang-cheol arrived with reinforcements, the students were already helping each other with their injuries, a scene that left the teachers completely surprised. Instructor Jack was the first to react, rushing over to check on Logan. Since he'd been treated, other than some difficulty moving, he was fine. Jack Rover was literally crying tears of relief. Coach Lee looked around with a frown and asked the students what had happened. Logan explained how they were ambushed by the villains, a group of 3, 1 man, and 2 women. Lee Sang-cheol guessed it was the Samsam group and urgently asked where they were now. Logan pointed to a tree nearby. That's where Lisa and An were, completely knocked out. Kim Ju-hyuk had taken care of everyone. Lee Sang-cheol was stunned. That kid has already reached this level? The ground around the Samsam group was cratered, showing they'd taken quite a beating. While losing consciousness, Logan had vaguely seen Ju-hyuk fighting. It was incredible. Logan didn't hide his deep admiration. He completely overwhelmed those villains. I couldn't even lay a hand on him. When he fought us, he wasn't even using half of his true power, Logan said, sounding quite bitter. I really thought I was strong for a high schooler, but it seems I've been way too arrogant lately. Seeing him like this, Instructor Jack encouraged him to cheer up, saying Kim Ju-hyuk was just someone who broke the mold. But Logan asked, "They were a group of 3. Where's the other one?" The blonde girl replied that Ju-hyuk had dragged them off. Before she could even finish, the girl with glasses was tossed back like a sack of potatoes. She'd already spilled everything, who was behind it and what their goal was. Ju-hyuk stood there with his hands in his pockets, filling everyone in on the situation. Lee Sang-cheol asked if he was okay. Oh, what a redundant question. Nothing could ever happen to someone like Ju-hyuk. Lee Sang-cheol laughed, feeling relieved, and told him they'd discuss the details back at the academy. The instructors helped the injured students to the clinic. As for the Van Hala students, they were to find the White Lotus Association and inform them that the inter-school competition was over. After being out in the rain for so long, Ju-hyuk breathed a huge sigh of relief to finally be home and cleaned up. Today was exhausting, so he didn't hesitate to flop straight onto his bed. When he caught the villains, he'd used magic power to attack them. Was that the reason? Bok started nagging again, asking if Ju-hyuk had increased his magic power just to use it for attacks. Besides, after a long day of grinding, he'd brought back a pretty good haul, the Great Eye of the Forest. Hala, the House of Megai Arona, was actually the gem in the House of Megai Arona, a trophy he was just tossing in his pocket like it was nothing. Whatever, he got it. This thing took quite a while, not gonna lie, but at least it's finally done. Back to when we were still in that forest. It took forever for that bespectacled girl to wake up, and the moment she opened her eyes, Kim Ju-hyuk demanded to know what her ability was. He asked in a way that made her look as confused as if he were speaking an alien language. It wasn't human speech at all, or so it seemed, even though Ju-hyuk was definitely talking. No one knew where she was actually from. But when it comes to objectives, usually these teams have one combatant, another combatant, and a support person in the very back. Isn't that how they're usually set up? The girl with the stiff, gelled hair was clearly the support in their trio. Her ability had nothing to do with direct assassination. When he asked what her power was, the glasses girl snapped at him to get lost. She was about to walk away when Ju-hyuk lunged right at her, leaving her totally stunned. Because he blocked her space-time displacement just like that. Anyone could tell that meant her ability was to create a subspace and move into the main space, right? Kim Ju-hyuk grabbed her immediately. Perfect. Use that ability to help me out. I'm looking for something, and if this goes smoothly, nothing bad will happen," he said with a smile that wasn't exactly friendly. And well, everyone knows how that turned out. I really have to thank that space-shifting ability for that. Botch Ear exposed the truth. Kim Joo-hyuk didn't leave that girl unscathed. He did what he did because she absolutely refused to reveal which organization her team belonged to or who their client was. Even so, Kim Joo-hyuk already knew those three assassins were the Samson group from the evil Yusin, and the client was none other than Robin. He had originally planned to leak the ambush info to the media, just like last time, but then he thought about all the headache of just blindly rushing into the Venchik mansion again. He didn't know how many stitches he'd need in his head this time. Anyway, he had already gotten what he needed. So the next step was to face those lost memories through a deep sleep. Not only Joo-hyuk, but Bak Air was also looking forward to regaining his memories. A notification window popped up for him too. Well, if that's the case, might as well turn off the lights and get some sleep. Before drifting off, Joo-hyuk was still convinced he didn't have any missing memories, but whatever. Let's see what pops up in his dreams. In the dream, he was back in the Tower of Destruction just after Kim Hyuno had said his final goodbye to the world. The boulder about to crush him suddenly stopped. Or more accurately, the entire space froze. A shadowy figure with eyes that had no pupils said they would remember his name and the names of the people in the world he protected, then said goodbye and vanished. At that point, Joo-hyuk woke up from the dream, but he couldn't bring himself to believe that what he saw had actually happened. "Botcher, did you have any memories surface? Let me ask the little bro how it went for him." "Nothing at all. I think I used to be a tigress." What the hell, man? Of course, Bak Air wasn't some house cat like Joo-hyuk imagined. He was a former boss of the Tower of Destruction, after all. There's no way he'd be acting all cute like that. And since he didn't see anything special in his memories, does that mean Bak Air didn't see the weird stuff that Joo-hyuk saw? But whatever. Even so, he was the one who slashed me up and left me in this state. So you really don't remember anything about that name? Do you know anything else related to that name? As for that, Bakker wasn't sure. To sum it up, this whole trip felt like a joke. He only got some trivial memories that were of no use, and that description about carrying a name for the little bro was just incredibly vague. Just then, a notification window appeared again. This time, it pointed to an office in the Ahalan Royal Palace, the secret room of Ali Free Johnny. Go find the truth about the secret room of Ali Free Johnny in the Ahalan Royal Palace. Joo-hyuk immediately thought about asking Lily about this palace. The Vala training room always had 3 regulars before class: Kim Joo-hyuk, Choi Arin, and Hyuk. But today, Ju So-zeon was there too. Seeing Hyuk, she was startled and asked why he was there. "Can't you see I'm lifting weights? Why are you asking?" Hyuk was also wondering why she was there. So-zeon looked embarrassed. "Well, it's just, you're probably like me. Even though it's a huge blow to my pride, I want to be coached by Kim Joo-hyuk. I'm different from you. I always come here to train. Kim Joo-hyuk has absolutely nothing to do with it," Hyuk replied. Even knowing the reason So-zeon wanted to be taught by Joo-hyuk was probably because she lost to Aaron. So-zeon bowed her head, admitting that was indeed the reason. Remembering the duel at the inter-school competition, Ju So-zeon had attacked repeatedly but couldn't knock Choi Arin down. That girl was even incredibly cold about it. With one strike, she shattered So-zeon's sword energy. Offended, So-zeon unleashed 3 waves of energy at once, but Choi Arin just brushed through them all and slashed straight at So-zeon's face. That battle ended with Choi Arin as the winner. "She's become so much stronger since the opening ceremony," So-zeon admitted bluntly, but also attributed it to Joo-hyuk's influence, "even though I've been training constantly. I've been training my magic and swordsmanship really hard, but outside of my own family, I've never had anyone teach me proper sword techniques or how to use weightlifting exercises to boost my physical strength like that. Isn't that the reason why Choi Arin is stronger than me?" Seo Yoon pondered for a moment and concluded that she should go ask Kim Joo-hyuk instead, because asking him would be pointless. Plus, she didn't want to waste her time on a useless conversation. Just like last time, she decided to swallow her pride and chase him down to the end. Ju Seo-yoon approached and called out to him, but Kim Joo-hyuk, wiping off his sweat, responded with a less-than-friendly attitude. "What do you want, you rude brat?" Ju Seo-yoon didn't expect that guy to call her rude, but she held back her anger, closed her eyes, and asked anyway, "You're the one who trains Choi Arin, right?" Then she shouted with determination, I want you to teach me too, just like you do for Choi Arin." At that moment, their instructor, Lee Sang-cheol arrived and asked Kim Joo-hyuk, "Are you free?" Kim Joo-hyuk bypassed Seo-yoon entirely to answer the instructor, saying he had a few more physical training sets to finish, and asked what he needed. Lee Sang-cheol told him to hurry up and meet him after his shower, saying that someone really wanted to see him, someone who was so desperate they said if they didn't meet him now, they'd never have another chance. Kim Joo-hyuk found it strange and agreed to meet with instructor Lee. Joo Seo-yoon, left standing on the side, was stunned. Being pushed aside and ignored again like this made her feel like crying from frustration. "Hey, you rude jerk! Wait, what? If you want me to teach you, go ask Choi Arin about the exercises I gave her and just follow those. If you do well, maybe I'll sympathize with you and consider teaching you something." No one had actually ignored her, but she looked ready to cry. Choi Arin, hearing Kim Joo-hyuk sat, was willing to pass on the info, but she also picked up his habit of calling Seo-yoon a rude brat, which made Seo-yoon furious. Meanwhile, Kim Joo-hyuk followed the instructor to meet the person. Out of curiosity, he asked Instructor Lee who it was that was so desperate, and the teacher told him to think carefully. There was only one person who would be waiting at the dojo, and that person was none other than Rocklin. He looked even more haggard and wretched than he had just a few days ago, stammering and begging for help as he collapsed at Joo-hyuk's feet, screaming, "Save me! Please, I'm sorry! Please, just save me!" Rocklin kept crying out desperately. Kim Joo-hyuk pointed at him and turned to ask Instructor Lee what was wrong with him. Lee Sang-cheol acted like he thought Joo-hyuk already knew, but explained anyway that he'd discovered Rocklin had made a deal with that group of assassins. Including the latest suspicions regarding the Class 1 murder squad, he was the mastermind behind both killings. Furthermore, the media had already gotten wind of it. Now they had full information on Rocklin and the leader of the attack on Valhalla, and Kim Joo-hyuk was definitely playing the pig to eat the tiger. He was the one who leaked all this to the media. But this guy has the protection of the Ventric family. Wouldn't their head come to take him away? So why is he begging me for help? Kim Joo-hyuk wondered. Lee Sang-cheol said that previously, the Ventric family had made an official announcement cutting ties with Rocklin, and it wasn't just him. People involved, like his father, couldn't escape the fate of being shunned this time either. His family made absolutely no new moves, so without the protection of his family, he was about to be thrown in jail, so he wanted Joo-hyuk to help him. Rocklin screamed for him to give him a chance, saying the whole thing blew up because of his testimony, right? Wait, are you asking for a favor or ordering someone around? That tone sounds ridiculous. Rocklin didn't even realize how entitled his pleading sounded. He just kept on begging. Naturally, Kim Joo-hyuk wasn't having it and flat out said no. Rocklin stuck to him like a leech, weeping, apologizing, and swearing he would never appear in front of Joo-hyuk again. But that wasn't what he needed. Rocklin even tried to offer money as a bribe. Instructor Lee started to get annoyed, but he bit his tongue to keep quiet. Joo-hyuk wasn't short on money anyway, so he didn't care. Rocklin, losing his mind, looked at Yuria and roughly dragged her over. "What about this woman? I'll give her to you. She's a descendant of British royalty. If you have this woman, your status will surely be elevated." Rocklin was actively trading her for a reasonable price to buy back his reputation, which he never really had in the first place. "You're giving her to me? Is she just a piece of merchandise?" Kim Joo-hyuk was about to blow a fuse, but Rocklin didn't know how to read the room. He had completely lost his mind trying to fix his mistake. He insisted Yuria was his property and even showed proof, with a curse mark glowing to show Joo-hyuk he was telling the truth. "I can perform the transfer spell if you want her." Instructor Lee cursed. "That's a binding spell, a mark created with mana. It's a taming spell that makes the target unable to disobey the master. It's a curse that an ordinary fake contractor wouldn't be able to undo. Yet this madman had used it on a human being. Back in the day, there were people just like you, those with lives that were too comfortable, using binding spells on innocent people." Joo-hyuk reached out toward Yuria, radiating a source of energy that grabbed that curse and ripped it right out. Without a second's hesitation, the binding spell was broken. "Instructor, can I punch this guy?" "Just one hit?" Joo-hyuk's face went dark. "Do you think a Valhalla instructor like me would let my students get into a brawl?" Instructor Lee grumbled, but he had been itching to hit the guy for a long time, so he continued. "But if that person is a criminal, that's a different story. Besides, Valhalla doesn't care much about the members of the Ventric house, so go ahead. I'll handle the fallout." Rocklin was dumbfounded. He never expected that he would have a day like this, but he couldn't stop the hand that had already reached for his shoulder. "Keep your mouth shut, or you'll lose your teeth." He never expected that he'd end up in a spot like this. But he couldn't stop Ju-hyuk's hand from reaching his shoulder. "Shut your mouth or you'll lose your teeth." Ju-hyuk, in his usual kind-hearted way, didn't hold back. He landed a clean, devastating punch right to that bastard's face, knocking him out cold on the spot, just as Butcher had warned him. I actually thought my teacher was going to kill that guy for good. It wasn't the first time Ju-hyuk had been this furious since his reincarnation. 300 years ago, Ju-hyuk wouldn't have hesitated to finish him off either, especially since he once had a disciple sold into slavery. The memory of that restricted magic, that's what really set him off. Plus, Ju-hyuk had been through the same thing himself, a realization that left Butcher stunned. Was my teacher a slave once? But before he could ask, Yuria chased after Ju-hyuk, wanting to show her gratitude. "I was so caught off guard back there that I couldn't properly thank you." "Thank you so much," she said. Ju-hyuk just told her there was no need for thanks and that from now on, she shouldn't have to worry about anything. She just needed to live her life freely. Yuria was so moved, she started crying. The next day, after class at a cafe in Valhalla, Lily blurted out 2 words without any context, leaving Ju-hyuk completely confused. "The Ahala Royal Palace is located in China." "Well, why didn't you just say that from the start instead of being so cryptic?" To be specific, it's a labyrinth owned by the White Lotus Society of China. They're one of the groups that came to Valhalla to participate in the inter-school competition, but the problem is lately, unlike before, they've started forbidding outsiders from entering their labyrinth, but still, Ju-hyuk couldn't wrap his head around how a labyrinth could even have an owner. Back in the day, even stray dogs and cattle could wander into dungeons without any issues, and for Ju-hyuk, he could crush that place easily whenever he wanted to. "It's a bit inconvenient since it belongs to the academy. Is there any way to get in?" That's a tough one. Even though the White Lotus Society opens it up for their own students, it's not certain for outsiders. Plus, if you want to get in, you'd better be quick because time is running out. As she said this, the teacher suddenly covered her mouth, as if she'd let something slip. And she really had. Because normally, haggling for information with this kid was exhausting. So keeping her guard up was absolutely essential. "By the way, were you just planning to sit there and listen? Give me the information." Lily whined, criticizing the guy who was getting free info while sitting right across from her. Ju-hyuk didn't get what she meant, so Lily held up 3 fingers, demanding 3 pieces of information in exchange for letting him off the hook. "Thanks for the coffee, I'm off." Kim Ju-hyuk stood up to leave, and Lily hurriedly tried to stop him. "I'm only telling you this, so listen and then decide." Kim Ju-hyuk sat back down. Lily, looking incredibly reluctant, leaned in and whispered, "This is a secret. The Ahala Royal Palace has been selected as one of the venues for the second semester's world tournament." Kim Ju-hyuk didn't think what she said was a secret at all, since it sounded like all the instructors already knew about it. "What secret? Even the instructors don't have this info yet," Lily insisted. She had her own private sources. This world tournament is similar to the inter-school competition, while the one in Korea is only for Korean students, plus China and the US. The world tournament is like the Olympics, where academies from all over the globe gather to compete. In other words, it's a broader, more unpredictable version of the inter-school competition. It takes place during the second semester, so there's plenty of time. Is there a way to get in earlier? Kim Ju-hyuk wanted to speed up his mission, a request that left Lily quite flustered. Since she didn't have any connections with the White Lotus Society, she thought for a moment before saying, "It's hard to guarantee, but it's possible, though I need you to help me with something." Kim Ju-hyuk's face soured as he asked, "What is it?" "You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Why are you giving me that look like you want something for nothing? Come with me to the Global Monster Research Organization for just 1 day, no big deal." Soon enough, they arrived in Tottenham, North London, where the organization was based. "Just 1 day? What the hell? You flew me all the way to London!" Realizing he'd been played, Kim Ju-hyuk fumed. "We're here for just 1 day, right?" Having finally tricked Ju-hyuk, Lily beamed. "Even so, I'm authorized to stay until the end of the week. They even gave me Monday off, so let's have some fun." This lady really knows how to abuse her power. "Fine, do whatever you want. Just don't look at me like that. It's creepy." At that moment, Ju-hyuk was standing with his sword in front of a wild boar, while 3 middle-aged people stared at him intensely without blinking. Kim Ju-hyuk looked at the boar, remembering Lily saying the favor wasn't much, just helping her grab some headlines. Something like, "Kim Ju-hyuk, the notorious monster hunter, faces a challenge at the Global Monster Research Organization." Kim Ju-hyuk coldly skewered the boar through the head. Before it could even squeal, the system logged it out. Outside, a confirmation rang out. Wild Boar verified quickly, preparing the essence stone. Kim Joo-hyuk clicked his tongue. There's more? An hour later, he was finally sprawled on the sofa, sighing. So annoying. Lily, you're such a pain. She's really good at moving the goalposts. I thought the original plan was to defeat 3 monsters. Why did we have to verify 10 of them? Lily looked away, stammering, I don't know why either. Pushing that aside, Joo-hyuk couldn't understand why the atmosphere there was so weird. As soon as they walked in, everyone started staring at them. They started snickering and acting rudely toward them. Do you have some kind of beef with this place? Lily took a sip of water, fell silent for a moment, and said it was because they hated her. An article had suddenly appeared, directly contradicting the monster coping strategies that had been in place for decades. But aren't those verification methods outdated anyway? Just stab the target and it's game over, right? But Lily insisted it was the safest method and the organization's tradition. If that's the case, wouldn't it be better if someone else in the organization did it? I don't want them to... Lily suddenly turned serious. They're just a bunch of conservative old geezers. Those articles about monster hunting tactics? It's a logical strategy to boost our status and power. In today's knowledge-based society, everyone fights for their own position by joining forces and playing their own games. Joo-hyuk couldn't help but sigh. They were all such despicable people. But even so, Lily, is it really necessary for you to keep writing these articles? The press is nothing more than a piece of paper that society doesn't even recognize yet. It doesn't matter how rotten society is. What matters more to me is a sound strategy for dealing with those monsters. For that goal, I can endure those cold, judging stares. Looking at it this way, Lily is a woman who has always been loyal and steadfast in her own convictions. Now that her business is done, it's Lily's turn to show her appreciation to Kim Joo-hyuk. She says it's good that they came here, because she's here too, the leader of the White Lotus Society. I heard she visits the organization often. I think she was there earlier, to observe the verification process. That's good. Kim Joo-hyuk hurriedly stood up to go find her before it was too late. But just then, a woman approached him to talk. It turned out to be the leader of the White Lotus Society herself. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Seon, the leader of the White Lotus Society. Kim Joo-hyuk politely greeted her back and asked if there was anything she needed. Seon came to ask for a favor. Could you help me with someone? Actually, Seon wanted to ask Joo-hyuk to deal with that person. Lily saw things were getting serious, so she grabbed her drink and slipped away. Only then did Kim Joo-hyuk ask Seon for the details of the story. She explained that although she currently holds the position of leader of the White Lotus Society, she is fundamentally a member of the Seon family. The Seon clan was the first to settle in China after the apocalypse, which allowed them to elevate their status, establish the White Lotus Academy, and train excellent generations of contractors. Coincidentally, their family has a young talent, someone you could even call a prodigy reborn. By the age of 13, that child was already able to defeat average-level contractors. She even defeated the older brothers, sisters, and high-ranking members of the clan. In the end, even our leader, Seon, had to bow down at that girl's feet. Perhaps because she thought there was nothing left to learn from the outside, the girl locked herself in the Seon family's training room in the White Lotus Palace and never came out again. So I need you to smack some sense into that arrogant person. Kim Joo-hyuk grasped the situation quickly. This was Seon's intention. For him, this task was just a piece of cake. But there was one lingering question. If it's just about teaching that kid a lesson, aren't there plenty of others stronger than me? When it comes to magical power, the leader of the White Lotus Society isn't weak at all. Seon couldn't help but exclaim, Joo-hyuk, you've got a sharp eye. She was hiding her power and you were still able to notice. There are 2 reasons. Seon decided to be direct. First, because they require everything to be fought entirely through physical strength. Second, that person is 17 years old, the same age as student Kim Joo-hyuk here. Seon has also been following Joo-hyuk's performance in recent battles, and it's very clear that he possesses immense physical strength. If a student like Kim Joo-hyuk defeats a girl who is so arrogant that she thinks she's stronger than any other 17-year-old, her pride will be completely shattered. That's why I'm here to ask you for this. If student Kim Joo-hyuk hadn't come here, I would have sought you out myself later. Wow, an opportunity just falling from the sky like that. Who could be stupid enough to say no? However, since it's a favor, nothing is ever free. This wasn't a problem for Seon. She offered him a reward, but Do Hyuk had plenty of money, so he wasn't interested. There's a place I want to go. Can you open the doors for me? Instead, he made another request. Whoosh! In a flash, they traveled from Korea to China, to the main headquarters of the White Lotus Society. Kim Do-hyuk didn't expect to get there in a single day. Not only that, he got to fly on a private jet. It was because he said he only had until Monday, so Seon moved as quickly as possible. As for Do-hyuk's payment, it was obviously an entry ticket to the Ahala Imperial Palace. To Seon, that wasn't difficult at all, so she agreed immediately. Thus, Do-hyuk followed Seon into the White Lotus Society. Heading straight to the training room, Do-hyuk had another question about the recent inter-school competition. He had a feeling the White Lotus Society members didn't show any determination at all. Was the person he was about to meet the culprit behind that? That could also be explained that way. After facing that child, many people realized their own limits and left the White Lotus Society, both students and professors. Confessed and expressed high hopes that Kim Do-hyuk would be able to knock some sense into that brat. To end the tense situation at the Seon family and the White Lotus Society, Kim Do-hyuk hoped the girl would actually fight properly, otherwise it would be a waste of his time. Stepping through the magic circle leads to the secret training room of the Seon family. That child is in there. Before leaving, Do-hyuk remembered to ask for the kid's name. Her name is Yeonrang. It was that girl with tiger stripe hair but teeth like a wolf's fangs. Who are you? Did the Seon family send you here to get rid of me? I'm not going anywhere. Get lost! Hey, lady, I haven't even stood steady on the doorstep yet. Get lost? Where am I supposed to go? Kim Do-hyuk wasn't happy with her attitude. As soon as she arrived, she lunged at him, trying to fix that insolent look on her face, but he caught her punch easily with one hand. Oh, that's actually pretty interesting. Yulong even countered, swiping at him. You cocky brat, you've got a sharp tongue. Can't you even recognize the ability of the opponent right in front of you? I can't believe you actually threw a punch. Kim Do-hyuk smirked, tilting his head. Are you talking to yourself? Under Yulang's shocked gaze, he twisted around and grabbed her wrist, then threw a punch with his other hand. Yulong tilted her head to dodge, but Kim Do-hyuk slammed his fist straight into her wrist instead. She gritted her teeth. Why doesn't this guy know how to treat a lady with some gentleness? Yuling was sent flying, and after landing she clutched her arm and asked frantically, Who are you? What was that move just now? Kim Do-hyuk laughed triumphantly. Looks like you have no idea what a 17-year-old student is actually capable of. Yulang, having failed to land a single hit, gritted her teeth in frustration and began calculating her opponent's next move. Yulang guessed Do-hyuk would attack, so she stepped back, but Kim Do-hyuk followed right after her, leaving no openings. Where do you think you're running to? He shoved a palm into her gut. Hey, even if she's a handful, she's still a girl. Take it easy, man. She's got a boyfriend, you know. But you have to give credit to Yulang. She knew she couldn't dodge the previous blow, so she pulled back to lessen the impact of the punch. But that was enough, and Do-hyuk realized it immediately. Even among his disciples from 300 years ago, almost no one at this age could move like that. On the other side, Yulang was silently sizing up the guy her age in front of her, but she remained confident that she was far superior to all those older guys. Yuling promised herself she'd hit much harder in the next round. Kim Do-hyuk saw her smiling like that and figured the last hit wasn't enough to teach her a lesson. Outside, watching the fight via security camera, Seola's assistant stammered as he called his boss. Assistant Ha said he had something delicate to address, but he still wanted to ask if this situation was okay. Although inviting a student from another school to White Lotus Palace was unavoidable, Do-hyuk holding the advantage now didn't guarantee he could defeat Yulang. Furthermore, he thought Seola hadn't lost when facing Yulang, but the truth was that Seola had lost to her once. Even in that match, despite using magic energy, she still couldn't guarantee a win against that girl. This shocked Assistant Ha, but the truth was that back then the gap in mana levels between the two was almost negligible. That was years ago, and now Yulang might be even stronger in both physical and magical power. If that was the case, Assistant Ha had even less faith in Do-hyuk being able to take Yulang down, as he didn't believe he could be stronger than Seola at the moment. Seola wasn't sure about that herself, but Do-hyuk had already defeated many notorious criminals. and even won crucial tournament matches. So if Yulong wanted to win, she'd have to struggle, and if she lost, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Back to the fight, Yulang unsheathed her claws and unleashed her 9-yin bone claw technique, a double-handed swipe, intending to give Du Hyuk a new haircut, but he dodged it, so she went for a knee strike. Trying to rearrange his nose, there was a violent collision. Yulang, still laughing from thinking she'd hit his head, suddenly went pale, clutching her knee as she stumbled back. "Hey, is your head made of stone or what?" she protested angrily. Kim Du-hyuk said nonchalantly, "Who knows?" Clearly, she was the one who went for the knee, and Du-hyuk just used his forehead to block it. Imagine, a knee not as hard as a forehead. Yuling was furious but couldn't do a thing. She'd thrown everything she had at him, but the guy stood there like a rock. Yulong's pride was severely wounded, but she had to admit, Du-hyuk's physical ability was on another level. "You haven't used your magic power yet, have you?" Yuling asked. Du-hyuk confirmed it, saying he did that to cater to her whims, but now he wanted to play a different way. The girl was preparing to flip the script. "To face you, I have to go all out if I want any hope of winning." Yulang flared her mana. Kim Du-hyuk knew this was a sign that he had completely broken her arrogance. "Planning to focus your magic power, huh? If that's what you want, I should show off a little too, don't you think?" The mana Du-hyuk released was even more terrifying, making Yulang gasp in awe. But she didn't need to show off physical skills anymore. She went all in on one punch combined with magical power to end the match right there. Yulang decisively threw a punch aimed straight at Du-hyuk's face. Seeing her rush to end it, Du-hyuk just stood there, letting it come right to his nose. Yuling was overjoyed, thinking she'd landed the hit. But oh no. Kim Du-hyuk bent as flexible as candy, dodging in a flash. "Enough playing around, I'm ending this." And then, he delivered a critical hit to her gut. Yulang's eyes rolled back, cursing, "You monster bastard!" before passing out on the floor. "Game over, baby, game over. Just as requested, I've beaten her and dragged her out here." Kim Du-hyuk carried Yulang like a chicken to Seola. "Look at that. Who carries a girl like that?" Seola was still stunned, not expecting Du-hyuk to be able to defeat Yulang. She asked worriedly, "Are you hurt anywhere?" Du-hyuk calmly said he was fine, but as for Yulang, he didn't know. Seola even asked, "Was that match really that hard?" "She's strong, I'll give her that. But I'm a bit disappointed it ended like this." Yen Lang was in pain after Du-hyuk threw that powder at her, but as soon as she woke up and saw Tichvan, she glared with hostility. Tichvan decided to put her issues aside for now. He turned back to Du-hyuk's reward, asking, "You said you wanted into the Ahana Royal Palace, right? I've been waiting long enough." Snow Cloud said she could let Du-hyu in right now. It just depends on how he wants to play it. Of course, Du-hyu wants to get straight to it. When it comes to eating or fighting, everything has to be piping hot and fresh to be good. Yenlong watched him and Snow Cloud walk away until Assistant Ha had to remind her to go get her injuries treated. Yenlong snapped back to reality. "That person who defeated me, what's his name?" Assistant Ha replied immediately. "His name is Kim Ju-hyuk." "Kim Ju-hyuk, let me tell you something. I is one of the strongest people in the world," Yenlong said, her voice filled with admiration, while deep down she truly wanted to face him again. In a place of undefined light and shadow, a creature with an unrecognizable shape, save for its massive, gigantic horns, emphasized the words, "the strongest," with a question mark. "What kind of place is this? Is this actually a labyrinth?" Kim Ju-hyuk looked at the Ahana Royal Palace before him, unable to hide his disdain, recalling Snow Cloud's words that this place was a special labyrinth designed like a castle. "Just watch out for the monsters called living armor, and you can explore this place freely," Snow Cloud had specifically warned him about the details he needed to keep in mind. Kim Ju-hyuk asked how long he could stay. Snow Cloud said about 5 hours, and if he wanted to stay longer, he'd have to come back tomorrow. But 5 hours was plenty for Hugh to explore. But first, he had to deal with this mob of living armor. After warming up his joints, he dove straight into the fray. With a few strikes more textbook perfect than any manual, Kim Ju-hyuk successfully smashed the suits of armor to pieces. He'd already cleared about 20 rooms by now, but there was still no sign of Alifree's secret room. "Where the hell is this place?" "Look to your right, sir," Bok Cho had to remind his hot-headed teacher. "The door looks a bit high-end, but it's just like any normal room," Kim Ju. Hayek was a bit skeptical of that theory, but he opened the door anyway. Inside, he saw a painting of a man looking as grumpy as if someone had borrowed money and never paid it back. As for the room itself, it really did look like a normal office. Is this really the room of this Alifri guy? No, I think you're right. Look under the painting, it says Alifri Johnny right there, Bok Cho said confidently. Kim Joo-hyuk wondered how he could read that. Bok Cho didn't really know either, but in short, he could read it thanks to some fragments of recovered memory. Then this must be the room. But the secret room was still nowhere to be found, and checking everything one by one would take too long, so smashing everything to pieces would be a much faster way to find it. You just like breaking stuff, don't try to dress it up as being efficient. But whatever, the room was going to get wrecked by Do-hyu anyway. Lucky for you that, once the smashing was done, he found a door hidden under the floor. He climbed down into the pitch-black darkness, unable to see a thing. Just as Kim Joo-hyuk was getting annoyed, a notification window popped up. Right before Joo-hyuk's eyes stood a red-haired witch. The guy casually greeted the girl in a way that was practically begging for trouble. The red-haired witch smiled gently. "It's a pleasure to meet you. I will answer your questions, so why don't you have a seat?" Kim Joo-hyuk quietly sat down. "Let me introduce myself. I am a guide." Kim Joo-hyuk looked quite surprised, so she explained, "Oh, sorry, that's not my real name. It's just what everyone calls me. My name was taken away." Regarding this, Kim Joo-hyuk was also a victim of that shadow that devours people's names, and he didn't expect this girl in front of him to have had her name stolen too. "I thought that kind of thing was nonsense, but when you said your name was taken, I realized it was real. But what does that mean? And how do I get my name back?" Kim Joo-hyuk was eager to get everything sorted out. The red-haired witch spoke immediately. "The name holds power. Every living being is gifted a name at birth. All their actions, the efforts they make, and the achievements they earn, whether good or bad, those things are represented by the most significant thing in a person's life, the name. A name adorned with glorious deeds brings forth immense power. That being stole those names. He absorbs the power contained within them. And what happens when someone's name is stolen? I'm sure you already know. They become a constellation." Despite that, the red-haired witch mentioned an exception, Kim Joo-hyuk, since he had been reincarnated. Only then did Kim Joo-hyuk realize that this girl knew he had been reborn. "Like Bok Cho, are you still doubting me?" "Oh, human who has reincarnated and received the notification window," the guide hit the nail on the head, reading Kim Joo-hyuk like a book. "I'm not even sure myself. Honestly, I don't even know when the notification window would appear." The witch smiled to ease Joo-hyuk's tension, but he just had to go and act like a jerk again. "All right, enough. Now stop blabbering and explain it to me. Who was the one who sent the destruction tower here? And who is this dungeon master you mentioned?" Do-hyuk asked. "Like I said, he sent the tower to Earth to steal people's names and bolster his own power." So it was that son of a butch. But Kim Do-hyuk still felt something was off. He couldn't wrap his head around how a regular dungeon master could possibly drop something like the destruction tower onto Earth. Something of that scale should be impossible for... Kim Do-hyuk froze as he realized something. The red-haired witch smirked. "Finally figured it out, did you? The place you live, this so-called Earth, it's actually a dungeon. You think I'm going to believe that? Believe what you want. But I have no reason to come all this way just to lie to you. Fine, let's just assume that's true. Let's assume that guy sent the tower to Earth just to steal people's names." The red-haired witch added that if Earth is in a state of mass crisis, stealing names becomes much easier. Everyone is busy fighting monsters, saving people, or taking advantage of the chaos to do evil. Because of that, not everyone can successfully steal someone's name and turn it into their own power. Only the final survivors can. If everything she said was true, that meant Juju's disciples had all turned into constellations by now. Of course, he hoped they'd manage to reclaim their names in the end. Juju felt a weight in her chest, sighing, "At the end of the day, no matter what we do, we're still just puppets in the palm of the dungeon master's hand." The red-haired witch countered, "Not necessarily. The fact that you reincarnated and made it here is already a variable he didn't account for." Joo-hyuk wondered, if the dungeon master knew he had reincarnated, did that mean he was the one who contacted them through the status windows? "You're wrong about that," the witch replied. According to her, the one who gave Do-hyuk the chance to reincarnate and provided the status windows wasn't the dungeon master. Do-hyuk wanted to know who it was. The witch knew, but since she was the one who granted him the chance, there must be some connection between the two. But she couldn't waste any more time. She conjured a ring and handed it to Do-hyuk. "I'm short on time, so I can't explain everything in detail. This will be the key to our counterattack against that dungeon master. Du Hyuk asked why she didn't just stay and finish the conversation. The witch said she was being hunted by the dungeon master, but it didn't matter. The conditions had been met. You'll see me again soon enough. Before Du Hyuk could say anything, she set a meeting for 2 days later, reminded him not to lose the ring, and snapped her fingers, sending him back to where he started. Kim Du Hyuk ground his teeth, fuming at the truths he'd just uncovered. So much for good deeds get rewarded. Life really loves to make things difficult, doesn't it? He looked at the ring in his hand and felt it tracking his position. If that was the case, he'd track down every last bit of monostone left over from the previous Great War. This time, Kim Du Hyuk was going to scavenge every single scrap to power up as fast as possible. Even if he lagged in raw power for now in terms of potential, he could reach the peak faster than that bastard. Meanwhile, on an island in the North Pacific, a man was reading the news. The Samson assassin group had been completely defeated by a student from Valhalla. Kim Du Hyuk. I was so angry he crushed his iPad screen and threw it away. Hey, old man, if you're not going to use it, just give it to someone who needs it. Why break it? This was the guild master of Dragon, Hannibal. He'd had his eyes on Kim Du Hyuk ever since hearing the constellation's whispers. That same punk had also beaten Choi Jinwoo, even though he had a contract with a constellation. That's why the brat from Valhalla had asked him to take care of Kim Du Hyuk, and to be sure he'd summoned Samson. How the hell did that go so wrong? While he was still stewing over his failed plans, a voice chimed in, "Seems like you're having some trouble, Lord Hannibal." It was the first-rank commander, George. "I remember telling you to announce yourself before barging in here." Hannibal might have lost face, but he hadn't lost his authority. George, however, kept poking the bear. "I just came because you looked like you were suffering." Kim Du Hyuk had become a thorn in Hannibal's side. "I see, we've already lost one man to him." George looked sympathetic. "You mean that bastard who's all over the news? The one who looks like he's high on life and itching to challenge the Grim Reaper himself?"